Good morning, everyone, distinguished guests, respected speakers, fellow architects, designers, and students. My name is Architect Esmonde, Chairman of PAM Emerging Architects Committee. And together with Ms. Sarah Sulaiman, Chairman of PAM Next, it is our greatest pleasure to welcome all of you to this session, the Emerging Built Environment Trends in Asia. We are also honored that this forum is supported by the Acacia Committee of Young Architects, ACYA, and generously sponsored by Nippon Paint, whose support has helped make this platform meaningful. We are gathered here today at a particular moment for the architectural profession in a time defined by rapid technology shifts, climate urgencies, and evolving cultural narratives. Young architects across Asia are stepping forward with bold ideas, transformative practices, and new ways of thinking about the built environment. Across our region, we are witnessing an exciting transformation in how architecture responds to cities, communities, culture, and sustainability. From adaptive reuse strategies, responding to Southeast Asia's dense urban fabric, to digital innovation emerging from Asia's future-ready cities, to sustainably rooted in community, local identity, and cultural diversity. These emerging approaches reflect the richness and complexity of Asia's architectural landscape. Today's forum brings together a distinguished lineup of speakers who represent diverse perspectives from across the region. We are honored to welcome architect Qhawarizmi from Malaysia, architect Primavera Desta from Indonesia, architect Cheryl Lim from Singapore, and interior designer Joe Chan from Malaysia. Each speakers bring unique experiences, critical insights, and contemporary approaches that challenge conventional boundaries and expand the possibilities of design practice today. What makes this conversation important is that architecture today is no longer isolated within the boundaries of building alone. It intersects with technology, environmental responsibilities, culture, economics, and social well-being. As emerging practitioners, we must continue to risk and ask how architecture can remain relevant, resilient, and meaningful in increasing complex world. This platform is also a reminder that young architects and practitioners are not merely future contributors, but active voices shaping the profession today. Through this dialogue, collaboration, and critical exchange, we collectively develop more thoughtful, inclusive, and future-oriented approaches to the built environment. I encourage all of you to engage openly, ask questions, exchange ideas, and take this opportunity to learn from one another. Very often, the most valuable conversations happen not only on stage, but in connections beyond it. Before I conclude, I would like to extend my sincere appreciation to all speakers, organizers, partners, sponsors, and participants for making this event possible. Thank you, and I wish everyone an inspiring, engaging, and meaningful session ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Architect Esmonde, Chairman of Emerging Architects Committee, for the welcoming remarks. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we are pleased to invite our event sponsor, Nippon Paint Malaysia, for a short product presentation. I welcome Ms. Christina Chong. The floor is yours.
Hi, good morning, everyone. So my name is Christina Chong on behalf of Nippon Paint. Good morning. So just a short presentation on anti-patchiness. So before that, as usual, I need to do a Nippon Paint introduction. So Nippon Paint is still first in Asia, of course, globally still number 4. Okay, so throughout the geographical country, we are right now at 27 different countries. Okay, so geographically, we are still number 4. Okay, so these are some of the iconic we did supply for in different areas. So like Beijing, Singapore, New Delhi, and Japan. Okay, so we are now under total coating and construction solution. Okay, so right now we are doing something called one-stop solution, whereby Nippon Paint and CMI will do something called anti-patchiness system for internal purpose. So normally if you hear that internal, we don't give any warranty. Being is it skim coat or paint, there is no warranty for internal. Okay, so right now if you use CMI skim coat together with Nippon Paint, then we are eligible for a DLP warranty. So we follow your DLP period. Okay, so as you all know, what are the common things will come out on your wall internally? Patchiness, whether is it being tiger strip version, shadow version, appearance differently, okay? So this also will incur the paint problem also, because when your skim coat is not being done well, it will affect the paint as well, okay? So of course the different type of absorption rates over here, of course the best one is the paint absorption rate, which is very high. So it has the flat surface version, okay? Of course, what causes this? Sometimes we say we over-mix the thing, or we over-skim the skim coat, meaning to say that I skim my skim coat too many rounds, or I mix the skim coat too little. That means instead of 3 to 5 minutes, I only mix within like 1-2 minutes. So mixing is also another issue, okay? Of course, all the site different problems, okay? Sometimes you say my substrate is not fully dry after my plaster. Okay, all these different things will occur. So we came up with this product called 681 Plus, okay? So this is the one that actually eligible for the warranty. You must use Wallskin 681 Plus together with the base coat. Then this whole set will give you the full warranty. Okay, of course it comes in varieties. So for CMI, there's no changes. We got base coat for adhesive wall, for lightweight block wall, and we have normal base coat for walls like RC or brick wall. Okay, so 681 Plus is the finish coat for the smooth surface. This is gray, and then of course, premium version is based on the type of paint you choose. Okay, so you got the standard system and the premium version of paint. Okay, so these are normally the warranty that we will issue to customer. Okay, so based on the case study, so we got this project in Puchong. Okay, so it's a double story lah. Okay, so one X brand they try to do, and then the patchiness keep on occur. It doesn't resolve. So we step up. We say give us a try. They let us try 2 units. They satisfy with our product. After using the 681 Plus together with Nippon Paint, there's no patchiness at all. The balance of the other face, we cover the whole thing. Okay? So these are some of the side issues they show. Okay, so if you can see here, dark shadows. So these are the patchiness whereby it's dark shadow version. So no matter how you paint over, it will not cover. It will still come up. Okay, so you can see over here, lining even after the paint. So with CMI one, you're going to see the shadow. So this is some of the video that Okay, so this is the full system lah. We'll do a short video. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Christina Chong, a representative from Nippon Paint Malaysia, for the presentation and for supporting today's seminar. And now, I welcome our first speaker, Architect Qhawarizmi Norhisham from KWA Architect, with the presentation entitled Observing Eastern Future. Before we start, I shall briefly introduce you to Architect Qhawar's background. Architect Qhawarizmi is a firm believer in the continuous discipline of owning the craft of design thinking. He was trained in architecture at University Technology Mara, University of Technology Sydney, UTS, and the AEDES Metropolitan Laboratory, Berlin. In 2018, he was funded by Khazanah National Berhad for a design residency at Politecnico di Milano. In Italy, he is a recipient of 40 Under 40 Emerging Malaysian Architects, which recognizes talent in Malaysia for architects below 40 years old. He runs his own practice, Qhawarizmi Architect, and has garnered over 60 design awards and competition wins throughout his career. He is actively involved in various projects that benefit young architects and impact the emerging practices ecosystem. Currently, he is serving as chairman in ARCASIA, Committee of Young Architects, ACYA, representing the collective interests of the 24 member countries with ARCASIA. Please join me in welcoming Architect Qhawarizmi Norhisham. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. As part of an ACYA endorsed event, I need to go through these 10 initial slides. In my role as a chairman of ACASIA Committee of Young Architects, that covers from the Eastern Front, maybe Japan, and on the Western Front, Pakistan. So Pakistan to Japan, this is the 24 countries under the umbrella of ACASIA. We have to realize that we are working on different realities, even though we could call it, Eastern countries or countries in Asia. But we are working on a gamut of, for example, a regulated market versus a liberalized market, okay? And developing countries and mature countries, countries that still have craft like Pakistan, India, Indonesia, and Thai, with countries that have gone all the way to automations. So our challenge is really how can we propose a framework that can work within this huge range of gamut. And Acacia usually have their forum and congress every year. And this year it's happening in India. So it will be in New Delhi, Agra, and Jaipur, three cities. And this is the office bearer. Now it's under the helm of Acacia President, Architect Professor Wu Jiang from China. And Acacia Committee of Young Architects is a regional platform to bridge the gap in between, and it's a space for us to actually find a collective effort within these 24 country members. So the structure goes as reflected here. Regional Council, Acacia Committee of Young Architects is one of the committees inside Acacia, and on the left side is the 24 country representative. For Malaysia, okay, Architect Esmonde is responsible to development of youth in this country. So anything, the young in the room, if anything that you want to do, programs and whatnot, he's the guy to contact. Okay, so each country will have one official representative. Now, how does it work? So on the top, the regional council will provide a strategic outlay. In this case, it's about technology and traditional. Vernacular language should not be separated, but actually combined. So that's what Professor Wu Jiang wants to do. In Acacia Committee of Young Architects, ACYA, we will provide theoretical framework for each country member to actually adopt and contextualize and practice in their own, and do a practical solution for their respective countries. Now, what we want to do is really to imagine Asia as a working architectural hotbed where we have the unique opportunity to travel between two time zones per se. So if you want to look at what's going to happen in the future, you can go to China and even countries that are not regulated, okay, unlike Commonwealth countries like Malaysia, Singapore, Hong Kong, that usually been emulated by the Thais and Indonesia. So if they want to start their Architects Act, they can look at how does it affect the market and why not. So in that sense, we become their time machine to go forward. But at the same time, when we want to go back and learn about craft and how to make bricks with your hands, lay down individual bricks, we can go to Pakistan, India. It's sort of become our time capsule. So the knowledge from the past and the knowledge of the future, more or less, is in Asia. And as youth, what we want to do is to break the ceiling. Break the ceiling in the sense that we want to normalize Asian names. I mean, if you go to any international publisher, if you have Caucasian names, it's easier to get some recognition internationally. If your name is Setiawan, or a unique name like myself, Qhawarizmi, it's very hard because the tongue is not part of the design culture internationally. And we also do some mirroring efforts, mirror technology with culture and vice versa, and hopefully it allow us to leapfrog the gaps between countries. And as the chair, what we are trying to do is to empower the young architect to do their own thing, not solely focusing on the association or the formal events that we are having right now. And in order for us to have this dynamic and collaboration, growth-focused efforts. So this is more or less the structure. Okay, so most of them are not elected yet. We're going to have all the country representatives listed here. Okay, so there's 3 zones. Zone A is India, Pakistan, Nepal. Zone B is the ASEAN countries, and Zone C, Japan, Hong Kong, Taiwan, North Korea, South Korea, stuff like that. So this is some of the things that we did, competitions. We just had an exhibition in Incheon, so we featured 3 young Malaysian architects there, and we also have the Acacia and CYA forums. This is what's going on next few months, I guess. We just concluded an event in the Philippines. This event is one of the outline ACYA event as well. We're going to have an event in India as well. So that's more or less what we do, and hopefully it will change, the prospect of young architects in these 24 countries. Okay, so going on to the advertisement ended, so this is the actual talk. So we are Qhawarizmi Architect in Cyberjaya. Okay, so we are a small practice, 10 to 12 people. And on the first part of the talk, I will talk about things that you might know us for. And on the second half of the talk, I will talk about stuff that quite new, I guess, and things that you might not know us for that. So we do a lot of competitions. This is Bukit Mertajam market competition. During Hungry Ghost Festival, they will burn paper sculptures, just like you can see on the side. And we want to get that relationship going between the temple and, of course, the market. So we designed the market to have this gradient roof to somehow encapsulate the old one and blended it through with the new one. So it doesn't look like there's an existing building and then there's a new building. So what we want to do is really to celebrate the staircase. Again, there's a small staircase, small existing staircase. What we want to do to expand them into a plaza. And I have this quirks with clock tower. I'm not so sure why. I know we have our phones to look at clocks and watches, but I felt that if it's a place where we celebrate, let's say, New Year, celebration that, sensitive or in relevancy with time, it's important to have a public clock tower. At the back, this is the swoop going around. This is not even a shortlisted entry, so you should really see the winning, scheme, okay? I'm sure it's better than this. So this is the courtyard in the middle where the swoop happened. So we want to ensure that the market looks like an addition to the urban fabric. So the market have featured no walls. It's just a very open market. And then the idea is to allow people to celebrate, their life or even festivities in the middle of the market as well. On the other side of the Malaysia, the East Malaysia, this is a competition for Air Kuching. We won 4th. There is a river in the middle, and we want to address the river, obviously. It's a very sensitive ecosystem. And what we want to do is, again, to replace the green that we actually occupy by having the 2.3 acres roof park, per se, and create that ecosystem that could actually live. So it must have enough concentration of natural surface, I guess. And we have 2 ecosystems, the waterscape at down below and the airscape, sort of like landscape on above. So this is how the proposal looks like. It's slanted because this is the international airport. So it starts with 2-story and ends with 12-story at the back. It's a singular block, but it's actually compartmentalized into 5 phases. There is an air gap in between. So the rooftop will be one of the largest rooftop that compound they use with a lot of activities, and it's also going to sequester carbon as much as possible. The idea was really to reduce the amount of maintenance fee with the carbon credit that they can, generate throughout the sequestration through the rooftop. So there are bicycle lanes. You literally can go up and down this mountainous terrain, 2.2 kilometer worth of bicycle lane, and there are 48 lifestyle community facilities. Okay, so yeah. In the middle, in between phases, there's a Ruai deck. So this Ruai deck is actually for you an opportunity for block dwellers to actually change floors. And basically the idea is to allow the air to pass through because the configuration are linear. So we need to let the air pass through and not build up inside the courtyards. So the idea was really allow people to go cross floors, change floors and whatnot, visit their, fellow neighbors in different blocks, at the same time, let the air pass through. So moving on to a different, because we have so little time, so I'm just trying to cover my bases as much as possible. With regards of food is something that we, discuss in the office as well. We are at the peak of arable agricultural land. We only have 31% of Malaysia, and we are at 27. And traditionally, conventionally, one person needs 1 acre of space, of farmland space, to actually sustain their food needs. And at 2010, we have 1.8 acres. But in the next 5 years, due to the population growth and reduction of agricultural land, each of us is going to have 0.4. So the only way to do this is to aggregate the land that we have. So this is another competition in Kuching. I think we just get shortlisted, 10 top 10. We did not win it. So the idea was really to see if we could reduce the labor, because even though it's a vertical farm, the labor still is one of the largest component of cost. So they will be replaced by droids and robotic arms to operate the farms. And inside the complex, there are 5 components. One of the components is Future Food Museum. It's literally a tower within a tower. So this Future Food Museum is sort of like cavity carving through the initial tower just now. So in this particular Future Food Museum, kids, visitors can learn about how food is produced and how food is being transported. And there is sort of like aquarium snapshots of the drone pod in action. So not only we cultivate the food in the city, we also use sustainable transportation to transport the produce to cafeteria, hospitals, schools, and all the B2B transactions are happening here. So yeah, I know that you might think that this is not, it's quite far-fetched, but in Cyberjaya, there are already 2 operator licenses been given for drone delivery. Yeah, so that, things are going up. So hopefully it will be a real service that we can enjoy in Malaysia. So as you go through the Future Food Museum, some parts of it will cut through the vegetable racks. So in this 2-volume space, you can see the farm operating all around you, and that will become part of the exhibit as well, on top of the passive information boards and whatnot. Okay, so that's some of the works that you normally know us for. So today, I just want to show you some of the things that we actually did on the ground. So this is Site B. So Site B is a little bit, I don't know, this is some of the, we try to position ourselves as strategic design practice. So we love to explore and research the things that we've shown you in Site A. But I just want to take this opportunity to show you that we also do this architecture on the ground, if you could say that. Trade shows are temporary. So when we be asked to design a pavilion for a trade show, I think this is 2023, I'm not mistaken. We use bamboo, and this is in KLCC. I'm not so sure if you've been there or not, but what we're trying to do is really try to use material that can be, cultivated easily, and then it's not that expensive, and still try to bring those rhythmic feeling of being in a bamboo forest. So this is how it looks. And then the idea was really to make sure that the carbon footprint at the end of the trade show is not that much. There is a moment where President of China, Xi Jinping, come to Malaysia. Actually, he launched this, the ASEAN-China AI Lab, and this is in my EG Tower, or Zetrix Tower now. So, just a simple snapshots of what we can do very quickly, just for the launch during his visit here. We also work on small pavilions. This is the original design, sort of a razor-sharp ball that's sort of like rolling around the lawn. Okay, this is how initially it looks. Unfortunately, the fabricator unable to cut the metal sheet, because the metal sheet is in a 3D undulating form, and when they cut it into that curvature, there's a lot of spikes, or the cuts are unclean. So we really need to redesign. So we redesigned to a square, a cube, and we think it is good because the idea is actually to accentuate and show the profile of that metal sheet. Actually, it's not metal, it's aluminum. So this is 99% made out of aluminum that will be recycled 100% after the show is done. So there's no finish applied to it. Okay, it is a pure aluminum sheets, and we managed to reconstruct and redesign those things according to the limitation of the fabrication method at the time. So this is how it goes. It is positioned in Taman Titi Wangsa. It's no longer there. It's been there for 1 year. So it's a showcase of durability, and the idea of getting things as as pure as possible. It's pure aluminium. It's very fortunate that it's within the compound of fence Taman Titi Wangsa, because whoever take it and sold it to scraps will get a lot of money because it's pure aluminium, just like your tin can. So the idea was really to reflect, okay, the sky, the blue of the sky. There's a bit of that, and then the green of the turf. And what we want to do is to actually frame the two parks, the two big parks in the city. So there is Taman Titi Wangsa here, which is the side, and looking down towards another shining stainless steel looking structure, signifying the KLCC park. It's sort of like a visual connector between those two large parks in KL. And the idea was really to ensure that people have this, moment with the sculpture, or rather pavilion per se, but it doesn't really, it's not a watertight pavilion. So the pavilion was there for, I think, more than 9 months, and we think it's a good way to actually experiment and look at material in a way that we not normally use them for. I also designed the 2025. If you went to MyTech last year, this is PAM Pavilion, Coliseum of Co-creation. The idea was really to create an engaging pavilion. Unlike previous years, pavilion is something that you can experience, come in and look. But in this pavilion, in short, what we want to do is we want to create an empty shelf and allow you to actually contribute to the facade. So we have a bunch of Lego bricks inside, okay? And the idea was really to allow you to create your own thing and then put it on the facade and contribute and become a dynamic facade. So in the first day, it's empty. On the 4th day, it's almost full. So the idea is to create a loop, and then when you enter, we're going to entice you with the smell of coffee. So we actually have a coffee shop. Coffee station is free coffee, so it's snuck there. So you make one loop going through this looping gallery. At the same time, in the middle, there's an event space for PAM talks, stuff like that. And basically, the idea is to create a space that people can actually be proud of, showing off their creation. Yeah, so this is how it looks more or less. And what we want to do is to strike informal conversation. So inclusiveness is part of the deal. Unfortunately, trade show like architects you can't bring kids around, but what we want to do is to create informal conversation. Even though if they don't converse, you are looking at each other's creation, and maybe to a certain extent you are judging them. Right? So the idea is to allow people to contribute, allow people to engage and have an actual activity and an opportunity or to sit down after 2-3 hours of trade shows, walking around the trade shows. So this is how it looks. The idea is to create this infinite photo spot, so that even though if you are standing here taking photo with your models, it will not interrupt in the other lane because it's a circular thing. So this is how it looks. It is a co-created pavilion, meaning the designer, us, is just putting up the board game and you come in and do your own thing. On the other side of town, I'm going bouncing around the country. This is our newly completed Kota Baru Airport. In this project, we do the ID. Okay, so it is a collaboration with SMA and MKA, Melvin Candy Architects and Surya Mamat Architects. So there are 3 architects in this project. It's just launched. The second phase just opened. I think PMX and Anthony Look was there. It's huge. It's a huge hit. I think this is one of the newest domestic airport in Malaysia, even though they do have 2 international gates for Hajj airplanes. So this is how it looks from the inside before it was open. Okay, just a bit of a photo. But then again, due to the fact that we are in the contextual land of the royalty of Kelantan, we still need to have this elaborate study on their palaces. All the ketam-guri, ukiran, carvings and whatnot need to be contemporarized with new materials and method. And this is just some side-to-side comparison between the renderings and the eventual VIP section. Okay, you might be in there if you go buy first class air tickets. Yeah. On the other side, nearer to my place in Cyberjaya, on the other side of Cyberjaya, Gamuda Cove, is a new breed of Petronas station. Okay, we are working on Gamuda Cove Petronas station that looks like a silver saucer. The idea is to create a sort of like UFO-looking space. This is going to be completed next year. And just to give you a context how small the petrol station is, this is 12 PAM petrol station. Okay, just this. This is the Mesra building. I did not have the details. I delete the details of the inside, but you can see it's barely barely a quarter of the whole development. So eventually this will feature a 3S center, 5 drive-through. I'm not so sure how the telecom gonna work, but there are 5 premises with drive-throughs. Nearer to Singapore, JB Singapore bus terminal, we are working on this right now. It is a new CIQ in Complex Sultan Abdul Bakar to manage the traffic, incoming traffic. Of course, we have the newly built RTS, but Malaysian government are upgrading all our, points, entry and exit points. This is some of the earlier conceptual renderings, so it will be elevated finally to look like an actual airport per se in hindsight. Okay, I think this is the last project I'm going to cover today. And for this project, I'm going to go down a bit heavy. This is a surau in Selayang for Majlis Pembandaran Selayang, the PBT itself. So you can imagine when we go for a meeting, there's a meeting of 40 people. If you can't stand pengarah perancang or pengarah bangunan, imagine if you have all the pengarah there, Timbalan YDP, Bendahari and all those things. I think you know how PBT works, right? Okay. So a bit of a backstory. The design period that was given to us was 1 month. Okay, we managed to get it within 1 month. But to convince them to actually adopt the scheme, we took another 5 months. So the total is 6 months. And we just bear the cost of our insurance, the staff working on it. But because we truly believe the scheme could really, make a difference. So if anyone have been to Selayang before, this is their compound, their old complex and their tower. It's 9-story tower, and our site is previously was a bonsai park, bonsai garden, and obviously what they want is a typical surau. So it starts with a crescent and the moon, a crescent moon and the star, sorry. But I'll say to them, okay, let's reimagine this. Let's just took the theology out of this symbolism. Okay, let's just talk about essence. Let's talk about essential things. If you took the crescent as the moon and the star as the sun, okay, now this discussion is a bit broader, okay? Because the crescent is actually a portion or a manifestation of the moon, and the star is definitely actually a sun further away. So let's just begin with this, the moon and the star. And if you look at a lot of Islamic practices revolve around these two things. And obviously, we pray facing Kaaba that actually works only with magnetic fields of the earth, because you need magnetic fields to work with compass. So the idea was really, again, to elevate the theological discussion beyond geometrical patterns, beyond symbolism, beyond calligraphy. What we want is, if you see sun during the day and moon during the night, you are reminded of God. So that's our, discussion. Now, if we took the time of prayer, that's 5, okay, before the sunrise, and then, Maghrib after the sunset, it revolves around the cosmological scenarios that happen. And at the same time, Islamic calendar is a lunar calendar. So Ramadan, Shawwal works within the lunar cycles. And lunar cycle have 9 phases from, anak bulan until in the middle, full moon, bulan purnama. And you need to be reminded it is a reflection of the sun's light. So the sun and the moon are always in cohesion, working together. So we told them, why don't we start with a geometry to design? I think circle is very good because Islamic way of life, should be complete and is perfect, and nothing more perfect than a geometrical circle. Okay, it's circular because it's also, in Islam we believe God is everywhere, every time, is omnipresence. And a circle is perpetual. There's no start or beginning. Okay, there's no beginning or the end. So just like how we envision God is. So in terms of architecture, a circular shape also gives us opportunity to dissect a partial and whole, offset them, radiate them, stuff like that. So this is where we start, okay, with the Kaaba pointing there, and we divide the genders. Obviously, in a masjid or in Islamic religious building, usually you separate the genders. And this is the way that you come in. So you have your sporting spaces. You have the sporting spaces zone, like toilets and whatnot. And since it is surrounded by car parks, we want to transport you to somewhere else. So we put a band of landscape around it. And then the sporting spaces fill up the space, more or less. This is how it looks. It is actually, mimicking the crescent and the moon phases. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is the full moon. And then it goes back to crescent, 6, 7, 8, and 9. So the idea was really to ensure that this is all parking. Okay, you've been transported to a different realm to do your worship. So this is how the configuration. Actually, we don't want any minaret, but due to the services constraint, because there is a tower up here, and they will see the roof. So we stack everything here. So the first portion is a partition for the male and female. And then we move on into rainwater harvesting tank, air conditioning system, and domestic water tank. So that's how we stack it up. So no services will be seen from above. So this is how the configuration will look like. But eventually, what we want to do is to make this as a huge sundial. Because if you understand the equinox of the sun, okay, after a certain threshold, you know that there is a time for Zuhur prayer. And after that, it's a time for Asar prayer. And the main thing that we are still looking forward to is actually mapping out the equinox and shadow line. When the curvature of the earth, curvature of the sun, and the curvature of the wall, you will start to have this shadow line on the walls that we can map it out. So in June, if the line hits this, Zoho is in. In September, if the line hits that, it's time for Zoho, stuff like that. So it's going to be, in constant conversation with nature. Okay, so that's how it looks. It's very wall up. So unlike any normal surau, it's very wall up. It's not that inviting, I would say. And the entrance are only this small 8 feet entrance for male and female. The surau has no doors, okay? So people with disability can just go up very easily. And what we do is we leverage on the geometrical pattern. So if you're standing here, you will not see, the female Jama'ah opening their shoes and whatnot, because the line of sight, due to the curvature, you will be sheltering the female Jama'ah naturally. So this is their space. This is the male space, and there's a retail or cafe here as well. So this ramp actually have a skylight that we will show you after this, that try to mimic the experience of, going through afterlife when you are, stripped of all your belongings and you are 7 feet under. So in a way, it should give you some moment for reflection. So this is how the space is divided. It's circular. It means that even though you're on the third row, second, third, fourth row, if you're having your prayer on the side, you still can feel as if you were in the front row. So to the non-Muslim, actually, if you are further in front of the Jama'ah, it's actually better. Usually we encourage people to fill up the first few rows first. But during our study, we always find out that corners are taboo, meaning in a rectangular or a square surau, okay, usually nobody actually praying at the corner. So we told them, let's scrap the corner. Okay, let's put landscape instead. And then the idea was really to go back to the concept of the moon. So you experience half of the space, but visually you will see the full circle. So we have a partition with one-way mirror. So the male will see themselves, while the female will see the male self. It's a one-way mirror, just like in the police station. So again, you enjoy half the space, but you visually observe the full circle. Same goes to the male, you observe the full circle, even though you only enjoy half the space. This is how it looks. So you are surrounded by nature, hopefully transporting you from off the parking setting. And this is from the female point of view. You can see the male self in front. This is the male point of view. If they look back, they only see themselves as a reflection of self-accountability. So in a normal operation, it can fit 150 people at one time. Okay, but if you open up the partition, this is where we store the partition. For example, for recital or even seminar. Okay, so it's a dual function. It can also host seminars as well. It could be in this configuration. For Friday prayers, they have 1,000 staff. 500 of them are male. I think 400 of them are Muslim. So this could be an option as well for them to have their Friday prayers. This is a video going through it, which is more or less the same. The only thing different is there is a reflective pond that we make a concession to omit. It's okay lah, we give them a bit, but we managed to fight tooth and nail for 6 months to actually, have it as per our first design. So the grill, it doubles as a signage. So only when it's open, you will see that it's actually a surau. But if you don't, if the surau is closed, actually none of people that pass by will know what it is all about. So the idea was really to create this the experience of going in to go out. So that's why even though you are going into a building, we have a lot of external element, such as this, the feeling of being 7 feet under. So there's a skylight punching through the curvature. And then this is where you actually take off your shoes before you move on to take your ablution or self-cleaning ritual on the other side. So the corridors are actually fairly short. So some parts we have this reflective mirror to make it look like the corridor is continuous, the curving corridor continuous until to the other side, but actually it's not. So this is where we shelter all the toilets, the OKU toilets, and of course the male toilet. As you go into the main prayer hall, okay, again, the nature start to come in. So you're a bit confused because you're already in a building, but again, we want to introduce external element back into the building. So the only difference is you will not see the actual reflective pond. That's the only concession that I made due to their, maintenance challenges. But the idea was really to ensure that they are transported out from their normal office setting, okay? So this particular surah are also connected to the counter numbering system in the cafe, so you will not miss your numbers if you are waiting. And you can see from the male side, the partition is actually mirrored partition. Okay, this is when the hall is open, and then we can close them up. Only this area is air conditioned. It's very low. It's only 28% of the space. Okay, is air conditioned. Actually, it have double operation. It can also work with natural ventilation. So this is the male side. You will see the full circle, but only enjoy half. Okay, this is the fenestration screen outside, and then this is the lunar phases fins that also acts to self-shade the building to reduce the external heat gain. Yeah, so they are self-shading, they shade themselves so that the sun will only hit the external wall without influencing the temperature inside. So this is the tower from above, 9-story tower. So the idea is to connect the surau all the way to all the other complex, the old complex, the tower, the surau, to the existing bus station. Okay, so this is how it looks. I think last year, end of last year, they're having difficulty of setting out. I think we have a bit of a drama on the setting out because the center point becomes super important. And this is maybe 1 month ago, so it's underway, and hopefully we can have another session like this on the actual building itself. This is 3 days ago, maybe early next year, hopefully. Okay, so yeah, I'm also wants to see if what I said actually have partial truth in it or not. if the shadow and the reflection actually work or not. So we'll see next year. Thank you so much. Oh, I also have some books. If you're keen to get from me, I bring 5 copies. So we also working on the second book. Observatory invites you to actually observe the world to do better architecture. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Architect Qhawarizmi, for the inspiring and thought-provoking presentation. Moving on, I will briefly introduce you to our next speaker. Architect Primavera Desta is an Indonesian architect and co-founder of MYDY Architects, a design practice exploring contemporary architecture through research-driven and context-responsive approaches. Her work engages with the challenges of rapidly urbanizing Asian cities, focusing on sustainability, urban density, and the reinterpretation of cultural identity within contemporary built environments. She is also a lecturer in the architecture program at Bina Nusantara, BINUS University, where she contributes to architectural education and research while bridging academic discourse with professional practice. Her research interests include resilient urban design, walkable mixed use, communities, and human-centered architectural strategies for tropical environments. Beyond her professional and academic roles, Primavera actively participates in international seminars, design forums, and architectural collaborations that explore emerging trends in architecture and urbanism across Asia. Through both practice and teaching, Primavera advocates for architecture that integrates cultural context, environmental responsibility, and contemporary innovation, encouraging emerging architects to develop thoughtful design responses for Asia's rapidly evolving built environment. And her sharing today will be entitled Young Architects in Asia, Negotiating Identity, Clients, and Contemporary Design. Please join me in welcoming Architect Primavera Desta. The floor is yours.
Okay, good. I don't know, is it good morning, good afternoon? Good morning. Thank you so much, everyone. It's a very honor for me to become one of the speakers for today. And I think this is my first time coming to Malaysia as a speaker. So I'm really grateful and thank you so much. I didn't expect that the participant is this much, and I respect you guys more senior than me. So, today I'm going to share a bit about my experiences as an young female architects. So as long as we are under 40 means that we are still young. So yeah. Oh, I'm not talking about anybody. Okay. Anyway, my title today would be the Negotiating Identity, Clients, and Contemporary Design, because maybe there's another environmental settings in practicing in Indonesia compared to Malaysia, maybe. So I just want to share a bit about the experience while practicing in Indonesia. So before I start my presentation, this is a bit introducing about myself. I'm Desta. I graduated in 2016. Gajah Mada University in my city, Yogyakarta, and then I continue my master in the NUS, Singapore. And currently I'm a co-founder and also principal of MYDY Architects. Our base is in Indonesia as well. Other than that, I'm a lecturer in BINUS University. Yeah, so just a glimpse about our firm. MYDY Architects is actually still a toddler. We were founded in 2021. Okay, so before that, after I graduated from the undergrad school, actually I worked for a construction company for about 4 years. Okay, so I did still architecture works, but it's a very small things, I could say. Yeah, because it's a contractor company actually. That's how we run our practice in Indonesia. Yeah, design and build, it's still so many. And then after that, I continue my study in Singapore. Then after that, we found this MYDY Architects. Our legal name is actually Meta Design Nusantara, but our stage name is MYDY. Yes, stage name, right? With my partner, Melissa, which is in Surabaya City. Okay, so I always love to show this. I'm very proud of this because this was from 20 years ago, made by me with Sims 3. So I was still in the high school, I think, and you know, I want to prove that architecture is always my first choice, okay? I never think of anything else, any major, no. It's always architecture. See, this is the proof. Other than that, I love Japanese anime since I was a kid. And I think this one is leading me to architecture as well as entrepreneurship. Because I think, you know, it's a choice for us as well, whether we are practicing purely as an architect or we are running a firm. In Indonesia, of course, you running a firm means that you need to know how a company should work. It's not only about practicing designing, but you need to know the financial things, the tax, everything, even the people, our team, how to manage people, etc. Yeah, it's another thing. So that's why I learned it luckily from a very early time of my time. This one I started in 2013. I tried to sell action figurines of the Japanese characters, anime characters. Start a bit, then currently we have a store in Yogyakarta city. This is one of my stuff. And we are also actively involved in some of the events, not only in my city, but also in Jakarta, the bigger city. And I'm really proud of my store because your immediate past president were there. So this is Adrianta and Rida. They were there, so I'm really proud of this. And other than that, I love to make friends and, of course, supporting the young architects because you know, as an architect, we need to be inspired, right? And, you know, my city is not as big as Kuala Lumpur, as Jakarta. I'm not coming from the big city. So when you wake up, it's really difficult to find any skyscraper, high building, and so on. So how could the students or young architects to be inspired to design something, right? So that's why we initiated some trips. We are going to see some other cities overseas, like in Seoul, in Japan. And this year we are going to Singapore. There will be 40 young architects and students. And then in October we are going to China, to Chengdu and Chongqing, actually. Yeah. Yeah, and this is the event that we had in 2023. We combining between the architecture exhibition with the cosplay competition, if you know cosplay. And even my Japanese friend said, hey, there is nothing like this in Japan. So we are the first of this kind. Yeah, other than that, we have webinars, etc. Some of my friends from Japan also coming. And this one is not mine. This is the result of the competitions that we did that time. Young architects need to design a house, but we want them to render in anime style. So do not render in real style. It's already very common. So this is the result, and we got so many submissions, so we're surprised also. And the below images are another competition, but it's more interior designer, which HDII. Actually, yeah, design a house of action figurine collectors. So other things. Okay, so anyway, that was just a quick things about what I did other than architecture. Now we are talking about our projects. So okay, I'm going to start with the Indonesia. I'm sure that you all know Indonesia. We are neighbor. Indonesia is very big. You see the area, you see the population. Indonesia is very big. But where is my city? Maybe some of you haven't visited my city yet. It's in Yogyakarta. It's like in the southern part of Java Island. Yeah, and among the 34 provinces of Indonesia, Yogyakarta is the only one which is called as Special Region of Yogyakarta. Why? Because we still have the monarch. So we have the Sultan, we have the Queen, we have the royal family, and we are the only one. Yes, still has that. And the Sultan is actually the governor. So we are the only province which never has election for the governor. Yeah. So okay, the area is you can see yourself lah. Population density. Okay, density is actually not that high because you calculated in all around the province itself. But in the city center, it's quite high actually. So this become a problem, especially in the practicing as an architect. First, you have a very high density. Second, because of the special region, means the culture and tradition are super strong. We are the center of culture of Indonesia actually. Yeah. So this really affecting a lot of things while we are practicing as an architect. Yeah, so I think these three images are the best images to introduce Yogyakarta. We have Merapi Mountain, is a very nice nature. And this is not my father, okay? I'm not the princess. This is our Sultan, Sri Sultan Hamengkubuwono the 10th, okay? No, currently number 10, so he's the one. And then the landmark, Tugu landmark, this one is actually a very important landmark in Jogja. The scale is actually not that big, but it's very important. Why? Okay, just see this, okay? So the first Sultan lies concept to the city with this cosmological axis. So it lies from the Mount Merapi in the north, going through the south to the Southern Sea. Yeah. So along this, we have a Malioboro Street, which is a very good public street, public spaces. And then we have the Palace, we have Tugu, the landmark. We have the Panggung Krapia, it's another landmark. So this one is very important for people in Yogyakarta. And this one is also already recognized by UNESCO. Okay, so now what is the effect to the practice? Okay, when you get any sites to do an architecture close to this line, wow, it's terrible. Terrible means it's challenging, okay, positively. Because the permit will be very difficult. Because not only your architecture, not only the regulation like the floor, GFA, etc., but you need to think also the facade. The facade should be this style. The facade should be like this. And even, then we need to put any batik pattern, for example. Every batik pattern, it has meaning. So like one of the pattern that Kawa shows just now in the surau, right? We call it batik kawung. So batik kawung, we cannot put in the floor. The princess will come and, angry to you. It's really happened. One of the architects did that, and then the palace actually say, no, you cannot do that. So something like that. So that difficult, okay? Yeah, but anyway, we move a bit to my project, okay? My project will be not only in Jogja lah. Some of them will be in Jogja, some of them in other places in Indonesia. But let's see the comparison later. So this one I want to share a bit because for me it's very honor to be involved in this project. This one before MYDY. So this one when I was in construction company. This is the Imogiri Royal Cemetery. Royal Cemetery means the cemetery for the king and the family. Yeah. So basically this is the area. As you can see here, this is the aerial photo. So Surakarta is another royal family, but I will not tell you the history because it's going to be very long. Please check the ChatGPT if you want to know. And Sultan Agung is the great sultan. And then Kasuargan, Besiaran, Sabtorenggo, and the new cemetery. So the one we did is the new cemetery. So Kasuargan basically for the Sultan number 1, number 3, Besiaran is 4, 5, and 6. Saptarenggo is 7, 8, 9. Yeah. So the new cemetery, of course, for the 10 and the family. And this was done by 2020, so before I took my master. And you know, the challenge is we need to build a traditional building which is done in modern time. So that was the challenge. And another thing, we need to, of course, take some of the things from the previous buildings, but there is no any documentation. That's another difficulty. So we were in a team, not only architects, of course, conservators, of course, archaeologists is also there, and some people from the palace as well. Yeah, but of course, a lot of dramas, a lot of, not really a drama in a negative way, but it's more a lot of discussion. And of course, we have discussed also with the royal families and also the king itself. Yeah, so actually, the report is not open publicly. I had the report because I was the one who wrote the report, and I submitted to the palace. So I cannot put the photo from the further view. I'm so sorry. This is the maximum that I can show. But this one was made by with the very hard thick wood, the Japanese thick wood. It's very hard. So it's really different with the one the Japanese and Koreans did. It's very different. And this one, we need to make sure that this is the highest level one. Yeah, because this building must last long for 100 years with timber. Yeah, so it's another challenge. So actually, we did the building first in the workshop, and then we moved to the site, the actual site. Because, you know, to go to the actual site is very, very difficult, yeah, in terms of the transportation. Yeah, this is some of the joints. Of course, we worked together with the last master builder from the palace, but he passed away just few years ago because he's too old already. Yeah, so that's why it was bad because there is no any documentation. But this one, we made the report, we made the documentation, so hopefully it will help in the future. Yeah, this is also the process when we cut from the log. Yeah, so we work from the very beginning, we cut the log, we got the timber, we cut into the timber, etc., into the beams, etc. And another thing interesting is the dimension of the building is actually not taking from the standard like a Nuvert. So it is taken from the dimension of the Sultan body. So for example, his palm, his hands, his feet, and then it's multiplied. So something like that. Yeah, so interesting thing, but that's why I feel like I am so lucky and honored to be involved in this project. Yeah, and other than that, we did also some renovation works within the palace itself. It's an old palace, of course, since 1700 something. So we need to do it carefully, and all the documentation must be there. So this person's actually putting the gold leaf 4 by 4 centimeters. So imagine how long he will take to put one by one, really one by one, because I was there. Yeah, okay, so after 4 years working for a construction company, then I took master in Singapore. I'm more thinking of sustainable architecture. Because I feel like, okay lah, conservation architecture is very nice, interesting, but I think it's not really me. It's a choice, okay? I'm not saying that this is bad or no, it's just not me. And when I was in Singapore, I find it like, this is, I think, is more urgent. Architecture and sustainability is more urgent because what? You know, you feel that we are now having a very weird climate, suddenly raining, suddenly very hot, etc., right? I think it's not only in Malaysia, in Indonesia and the Philippines. My friends from Asia, some of the countries in Asia say the same. So I was thinking like, okay, I think I want to be more focused on the contemporary design and the sustainable architecture. But when we talk about sustainable architecture, between people or architects in Singapore and Indonesia, is actually they have a different understanding. It's my opinion, okay? Why? because I think people in Singapore or architects in Singapore is more in the survival mode. Okay, you laugh, so maybe some of you agree with me. Because land scarcity, everything, they need to really think, otherwise they cannot eat. Okay, in Indonesia, like me, okay, behind my house, I still can find a very large paddy field. 1 hour driving, I can find a very beautiful pines forest. And then the sea, etc., etc. Okay, what you want lah? We have. So this one is very different. So when we talk about sustainable architecture, for Indonesian architects, what they are talking is always certification. Okay, this got the certification from a Green Building Council, etc. Okay, that's good. Of course, that's correct. It's everywhere, right? But I once went to a building which is got a certification code in my city. Okay, maybe in the energy is a good one. It's lower than the other common building, but I didn't feel any different with the other building when I come in as a human, as a user. I come to the building, okay, this is the lobby, it's the same. But I feel it different with, for example, Kampung Admiralty, if you ever been visit in Singapore. I feel it, okay, the design was formed because of the needs of the people. Like if you go to the 6th floor, then you still can feel that you are in the ground floor. So something like that. So when you are in the condominium, actually, you still can see that the building has a very large green area. So I was thinking like, oh, maybe this can be a concept. So that's why one of my professor, he is Wong Man Sam from Woha. He told us about the form follow system. So this is actually from him. Okay. But we are trying to translate it into our designs as well. This is some of the systems that we learn. So other than the energy only, which is always discussed in terms of the certification, we try to think about the green and the public space as well. Like I said before, so people, so the user itself, when we come, what we feel, what we get, how the elders can do Tai Chi together, or do something lah, children can play, etc. So this one is creating more livable spaces. So why don't we put this concept into our design? So something like that. Then, okay, I'm going to show you some of our design and how we try to negotiate with the seniors, with the, of course, the clients. Because again, in Indonesia, as I mentioned before, people are more into conservative architecture, and even the green building is only about certification. Of course, it's not all. This is just most of them. Okay. So this is our very first MYDWA project. We were asked to redesign a facade, only a facade. It's a university. So this is the existing. So very common. This was from 30 years ago, 30 years old buildings. We try to think how it would be, and then the client. Of course, university is a business, it's a commercial building as well. So we need to negotiate with this. So how is it? We want to put at least the green lah, and then we want to put at least to make the maintenance easier, etc., etc. Of course, the client will think about it as well, right? And the other than that, they are asking about the system. Is it easy to be maintained? And how is it if we have a glass, for example, in a certain level, then when it's broke, how to change the glass, etc. It's only 6-story building. When we put the gondola, for example, it's not worth in terms of the budget. So how is it? So we propose of this. So of course we want to make it more modern, and then we want the glass, and we want also the green, but we put the small canopy so that they can maintain it easier, and we put also the system. At the time when we designed this, I was still in Singapore because it was COVID, so I couldn't come back to Indonesia. And I went around Singapore and learned a lot from how Singapore do the systems. And then we try to convince the client, because of course the budget will be more than the common building again. Because budget is everything, in Indonesia. Maybe in Jakarta, some people already appreciate design. So it's easier to be an architect in Jakarta. But when you go to outside the Jakarta city, we are struggling of, how to negotiate with the client. And then again with the contractor. Because if contractors say, oh, I don't know how to make this, then just change lah. And then they will talk to the client, then client will change the mind also. Oh no, my God, so many drama lah. So we try to convince the client. We say that, sir, if you have this design, you can say that your building supporting SDG. Okay, you put the green, right? And you can use this as marketing. And then he said, oh yeah, you're right. Okay, then, but how is it the detail? And then we provide all the detail. Okay lah, I'm responsible for the idea. I put all the detail. These drawings I drew myself. I show how to do it. It's actually easy for Singaporean or for Malaysian maybe, but for us it's difficult, For Jakarta people maybe it's easy also. But outside, difficult. So we try our best. This is the construction photos. This is the rendering, but it's exactly same. Yeah, so this is the real building that we have now. Yeah, this one. I was there 3 days ago, and it still looks like the same. So we are happy with this. So we are very proud of our first project. And then, of course, the client also happy. So they put the building to their flyers, billboards, everything, instead of only the students. So, yay, we got this. Yeah, so again, I'm not talking about how the design is good or not, good or bad, but it's how to negotiate with everybody so that our design can be built and accepted. Yeah. So then, of course, the client is happy, and then we were, again, it's a repeat order. See, repeat order. We got to design their auditorium in the 6th floor. This time, we also want to create something more contemporary, something very different. So we propose, okay, so this is the existing situation. Of course, to have a proper auditorium, we need to think about these things, right? The balcony, etc. And we work together with acoustician. This one is not only because I said, oh, it's good like this lah. No. We work with the acoustician so that all the angles we actually calculate. Yeah, so this is the exono. This is the details. This is the construction. This is from 2 days ago. I was there to check. So this must be finished by June because this will be used in June for international event. Yeah, so this is the rendering. Yeah, we hope that this one gonna be one of the best indoor hall auditorium in the city in Palembang. Yeah, this is behind the balcony. Yeah, okay. So next project is Co-convened, Gresik branch. This one is very interesting also. I learned a lot because Co-convened is actually a government-owned company. Yeah. In Indonesia, there are only 2 of its kind. One Co-convened and one another company, which is both of them are owned by the government. So it consists of labs and office. So they are basically the one who issue certificate for like halal certificate, safety certificate or something like that. So their lab is testing like oils, items, raw materials, etc. So the thing is, they are coming to us. They said, I want to have a better laboratory. And I said, is there any better laboratory right now here in Indonesia than yours? No. So, oh my God. Then what is the precedent? I don't have. We don't know, okay? We just have some of the standard. Okay, sorry. The site is in the industrial area, Freeport also there. Of course, we do analysis lah, architects lah, analysis. And this one, we got the laboratory standard, etc. We read all the regulation, but it's just a standard laboratory. So we don't know how to do. It was struggling, but okay lah, let's do this. Yeah, so I was thinking like this, because this is a branch actually. So this is the site. I was thinking to divide it into two masks. Okay, so like this into two masks. Why? Because I want to open the middle into something that is publicly open, and then we can put some of the like a small museum, so information, history, etc. about the Co-convened, about the company. And then when people go here, in the left side, they can see like an aquarium of the laboratory workers. They are doing something, they are testing something. So it's like a gallery, because it's actually their services they need to show. Of course, not all labs can be open, okay? So this is a certain lab. And the right side, they can find the reception. So it's a very simple concept. I'm not thinking very long, because, you know, of course, every time we get this design, this must be done in 1 month, 2 months, 3 months. So we need to do it very fast. And then, of course, they have some old brand guidelines, which is we need to follow. But okay, then we put some curve, etc. This is the sections, concept sections, and this is the buildings. This is now in the process of a construction tender. So we are hoping by next year, we hope to see this building. Yeah, but all the design process is finished. Yeah, we put also some of the spaces at the top. Of course, we are also need to fulfill all the regulation. Design response, architectural elements. We did the basic simulation by age as well. Then we can see to them, we can say to them that we are adding 53% more of a green spaces rather than only put a building. And this is the interior design. We did also the ID. We want something that is more modern and not very rigid, because, you know, government, I think it's everywhere. Government buildings usually is very rigid. So we want something new, and they agree. And this is the staff room. This is the canteen. We don't want same blue. We have another blue, but it's taken from the logo as well, so that they are not get bored lah. Every day they go and see the blue, then they go to the canteen, they see another blue. So simple, right? Okay, so the next one is the Yogyakarta project. It's a university, Universitas Mercu Buana. It's also the same. I think it's similar to the first project that we had. Of course, again, analysis. Okay, so this one, actually we are collaborating with the contractor company that I worked before. So my ex-boss called me, Desta, there will be a project like this. Okay, where is the requirement, room requirements? Okay, we got everything. Actually, in this company, they also have a division for the architecture. And they have architects. But you know, architects who've been working for 30 years in a construction company, they are more about shop drawing and as-built drawing. So, okay, so the architects coming with this. And then it's actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 plus basement. Actually, it's already fulfill all the needs, okay? But then I said, hey boss, why we need to design an old building like from 1970, but we built it in 2026. So that then, okay, then what is your idea? Okay, like this. But you know, I got higher. Of course, the budget is higher, and my boss is contractor. He said, wow, the budget is higher lah, it cannot be lah. I'm sure that the university doesn't want to do this. I said, give me time to present. And then, okay, I present and they choose this. Because I said, again, you know, sir from the foundation also, hey, this one can be your marketing tools. This one, nobody has something like this in Jogja. Oh yeah, you're right. Okay lah, pay a bit more, but you got something very good. So, okay, they agree. So now in under construction. So yeah, we just, we want to liberate more the ground level. We also put more spaces on the top. Compared to this, right, it's just a box, right? So, yeah, why lah? So this one is the rendering. Now it's in a construction process. Yeah, hopefully by next year lah, this one also finish. This is the, yeah. And see, this is some patterns that we need to do because this is in Yogyakarta. Yeah, this is a building concept, sections, plumbings. Yeah, plumbings also like this. As an architect, I supposed to not really think about this, but the thing is, when I give this to mechanical plumbing people, they will just put their pipes everywhere, and then it will ruin my design in the facade. So I was like, no lah. So okay lah, we propose where it should be, etc. Later I'll show you. This one is the standard one. Accessibility, elements. Again, we increase the green spaces, public spaces. This one, we try. Yeah, this one done by our young architects lah. Very, very young. I mean, I'm young also. But the very, very young architects, I asked them to proceed lah. Yeah, and also we have the modules, etc. How to do that. Yes, so they are happy. So again, repeat order. This is their second campus. So we are also designing. Now it's still in the building permit process. 75% lah. Hopefully soon, by next month, we got all the permit lah. And then we start the construction. So this is the site. So the site is this. This is their existing building. And actually, we also designing this. This is a church. Later I'll show you. But the challenge is these roads are very narrow. Well, this is going to be university. This is going to be a church with 1,400 seats. Not only about the permit lah. This is the reality. It will be chaos. So that's why we need to really think about this. Actually, they don't know that, we design this and this. So, but we are thinking, I think we need to tell them so that they can, in Sunday, maybe people can go here to park, but in weekdays, maybe they can use this one. So, collaboration, I don't know. Yeah, so this is the existing building. Again, architects, analysis, of course, mandatory. And traffic also. Yeah, this is from Google, but actually we need to see also lah. We did some small research lah about the traffic. And then environment, just go fast. Yeah, so they gave me two options, whether I only use this building footprints and then I go higher, like up to 9th floor, or I can use this one also, but maximum by 4-story only. So of course, I want more free in the ground level. So I choose the 9th floor instead. Yeah, so this is the rendering. I think this will be similar to the first campus. Yeah, this one. Yeah, this one, the pipes that I told you before. We really try to think about this. We gave to them. And then they said, oh, thank you, yeah, I just follow this. Oh my God, they pay you also. Why you only use my drawing? At least you need to check. But I make sure that everything is covered by the facade. Yeah, so this one. Actually, there's another systems, but to reduce the numbers of the roof drain, but it's still very expensive. So it's okay lah, we just use this. Yeah, this is the rendering. Okay, so this is the building next to it. It's a church. It's a Christian Protestant church. So this is their existing church. The capacity is only 700. Means that now their people is very, very a lot. In one Sunday, one session. No, in a Sunday they need to have like 6 to 7 sessions. And then it's not enough, so they rent a space in a mall nearby, and adding like about 600. We did also the interior design. But of course, we need larger space. So they are targeting for at least 1,400, double. So we are proposing, okay, then maybe we can just move the church into the back area, and then we have the facility here, and then we have a plaza. Because at least, sometimes in Indonesia, religious building is kind of a sensitive. I'm so sorry to say this, but this is what's actually happened. So our idea is why don't you open some of your land to everybody? So sometimes maybe you have social responsibility, social events, you can invite everybody. So it's not about religion only, it's about people. So like free clinic or something, we can do lah. So that's why they agree. Then we put the main building over there. We think the other letter. now it's very urgent to have this. And the other challenge is the old church was designed by very legendary architects of Indonesia. It's architect Eko Prawoto. It's very legend. So it's like, wow, it's a big pressure. But we try our best lah. So this is the main building. This is going to be like this, same like an auditorium. And this is the facade. So we translate at least the triangle, but we want it more contemporary architecture rather than the old one. Yeah, this is the facilities building. This is some of the diagrams. This is the interior design. But of course, this wasn't yet finished. We need to do more details about this. Now we are focusing on the main building first. And they are asking us to also design another building, which is the chapel and the garden of prayer, next to the facility building. So this one, so this is the concept. The cross will be here. We have the cross axis and then prayer notes. I said I want that the cross can be seen from everywhere. That's the concept, but simple lah, again simple. So like this, chapel, services, yeah, so we want a few something like this. Now they are still doing the land works because they need to create the leveling, yeah. So this one, that's the chapel there. And this is the chapel, this is going to be the chapel. Yeah, very simple, like Tadau Ando. But anyway, it still match lah with the men. Okay, so this one again is university building, graduate program building. It's a Catholic, now it's a Catholic university. They are more conservative. They are not here, so I can say this. So when I was in the contractor company, I worked also with this building, but now we are adding this. But at the time I was still very newbie, so I couldn't say anything. Now I'm trying to at least put a bit of my ideas. At least, put the ground level open lah. Then everybody can pass through, everybody can create, can have encounter communal spaces, etc. So we try to propose something like that. And this is the building. And because of the conservative things, the negotiation is very, very difficult. A lot of practitioners, academicians, and I am the youngest. Difficult. So, but it's okay lah, I try lah. Then this one gonna be the main. This one is already finished, the project. And this one is the multi-function room. It's quite big. And this is the chapel, their old chapel. They want to, move something, any elements to be here also. Wow, okay lah, we try. But at least I can play a bit with the inside. We want something like this. And this is the chapel. Difficult, but okay, let's try. Yeah, so this is the final design. This already done. But of course, the initial design wasn't like this. I'm more modern and contemporary style, but I need to follow their style with all the small roofs here. So, but it's okay. At least everybody happy. At least also, they give me chance to have some spaces, some open spaces, so that people can have more communal space. Yeah. So yeah, this is the multifunction. Okay, residential, I just go through quickly. Because to do residential in Indonesia is not that difficult. The permit is, I can say, easy, especially in other city than Jakarta. Yeah, so this is a tropical style. I just go through a bit. Yeah, materials. This is the interior, family room. Okay. Maybe let's go to this project. This one is more interesting. So this project, actually we did the interior renovation. This is a very old building. You can see from the facade, right? So this maybe 100 plus lah building. So usually the typical interior in the old colonial style would be like this. Of course, for a young couple living there, not like this lah, it's scary. It's like in a horror movie. So we try to think to make it still elegant, but more simple. So first phase, this is more simple, okay? We already reduced a lot of things. And the second phase, we design like this. This one exactly finished, exactly like this, finished like this. Yeah, this one, the working room, family room. This is the real photos, but this one is not yet 100% finished lah. Yeah, theater, SMA Kusuma Bangsa. Okay, I'll go through this also very fast. This is the existing. We made it like this. Again, acoustics. I think acoustics because some repeat orders from our clients regarding of a hall. So I think we are okay lah, better lah compared to anybody for this kind of room with the acoustic. Yeah, this is the real photo. This one, they are also happy. And this one, dalam Boronegara, we did also the ID. This is the house for the 5th princess. So the daughter of the king. Yeah, this one we just did. Okay, this is the existing. You can see, I was like a bit shocked. I was like, oh my God, how to do this? But it's okay, we try. And this is our design. So we want to still have the joglo, we call it pendopo, this one, because this is like the heart of the traditional Javanese house. So we need to do this really carefully. Yeah, all the materials, etc. This one. And we have also the meeting rooms behind the joglo. This is the family room. And they want something different with the dining room. So we designed something different, but they are okay with this. So, okay, they want something luxury. Okay, so I think this is going to be the last Spring Hill Resort in Ruteng. Ruteng is located in Nusa Tenggara Timur. It's even further, eastern further from Bali. Yeah? So Bali, you go to the east. So Ruteng is somewhere which is super difficult to go there. You need to land in Labuan Bajo, if you ever heard about Labuan Bajo. Then Labuan Bajo to Ruteng, you need to go driving like 3 hours. And it's really challenging, like a roller coaster, really. But once you get there, they have a very beautiful view. Very clean air, very clean water. And I didn't expect that they have. So we don't want to ruin that. So we propose something that is more natural. We are using their own timber because it's easier. It's also very difficult to transport anything. So okay, let's just use whatever you have. Yeah, but for in the interior, because this gonna be, they want something more luxury. So okay, we put more modern, but we still put some of the patterns of. It's different from batik. It's their own patterns. This is the room. This is the bathroom. Yeah, so I think this is some of the resume of the projects that I showed you. But lastly, I think architecture evolves when the young designers are brave enough to question tradition and transform it into something meaningful for the present. Thank you.
All right, I guess it's good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Cheryl from Singapore. Firstly, I'd like to thank PAM for giving me this great opportunity to speak at this seminar. And also thank you to everyone here who is willing to come on a Saturday to listen about architecture And of course, you get your points lah. So yeah, I was looking at the team from PAM, emerging built environments, and then there's this elaboration on cultural narratives. So that immediately stood out for me, because that's why my title, Cultural Narratives Reframing the Banal. So why I think it's important is because I feel that we are operating in an age where everything is instant. So it's also further exacerbated by AI-generated imagery, and such that like our design thinking risks being short-circuited into like this highly photogenic but generic images lah. So in this way, I felt that architecture can easily lose its connection to place, people, program, and context. And I believe it's important that cultural narratives continue to ground architecture and generate meaningful dialogues with memory, place, and people. Okay. Sorry, technical error. Okay. All right, so I'll start with a quick introduction of myself. I graduated in 2010, so you work backwards, you can roughly know how old I am. So I started with this simple ambition of wanting to learn from the local masters. So I started with CSYA, where I was very fortunate to have Sunny Chan Sao Yen as one of my first important mentors. And following which, I had two very good opportunities to work on two projects that would be quite a defining moment in my career. So at A61, I was able to play a pivotal role in the design of JTC Cleantech. And then also in W Architects, I was involved in St. James Power Station. And in 2025, I had the great honor of being part of URA's 4th edition of 2045, which is a very big encouragement to me to continue to persevere in whatever I'm doing. Yeah, okay. So I begin with this preamble that guides my design approaches. So preparing this forum has unexpectedly become quite a personal journey for me. I had particular interest in narratives that are emerging from the banal, where the mundane is reframed and transformed into something strange and delightful. So this is where design poetically disrupts the familiar and translate overlooked patterns and stories into spatial form and experiences in architecture. So in a way, I kind of strongly believe in how Jeremy Thiel frames architecture, which is basically shaped by contingency, social relations, time, and daily use, where architecture gains meaning through occupation and everyday activities. And it's not just about polished forms. So in a way, to accept that buildings are constantly being reinterpreted through occupation and altered by the users over time. And these banal riches can generate like spatial richness and social values, and that architects should embrace this change and imperfection rather than try to seek total control in the design. So this is an image I share, which I feel captures the essence of that. Is the housing block corridors of Singapore, and it's not treated as like pristine modernist objects, but it's more like lived spaces that are continually shaped by the occupation, like bicycles, plants, laundry, and lighting, and the informal appropriations that transform the architecture over time. Okay, so expanding on that, I'm particularly intrigued about how clashes and overlaps can be employed to reframe the banal and challenge how we perceive spatial relationships. So this is like a plan of a table in my house. The table stretches across from the living room, the study area, the bedroom, dining area. So in a way, the plan is largely open except for the bedroom, and the objects and usage of the table changes based on where its place, its position is in the house. So for me, this is very interesting because it kind of like reframe how we think about traditional spatial relationships and segregations, and how we can create interesting overlaps where clashes and collisions are drawn together to spark off new forms of engagement. So in the larger context of architecture, I'm interested in how these productive clashes and unexpected overlaps reframe the otherwise banal coexistence. So in a way, it's circulation, program, and form intersecting to produce dynamic overlaps and interactions to generate new social relationships. Okay, so now I'll go into the projects that I've been working on. this is the lab building I work on in A61, which I would like to share early design ideas and how we envision a lab typology. So the site for this project is actually very interesting. There's a wildlife corridor cutting through and is linking up to a larger eco garden. There's even like this heritage component that is like, it's called Tao Guang Pottery Jungle at the lower corner. So that is actually outside of the site itself. It's along the fringe. And in the intersection of all these very interesting site forces is the very unlikely program of lab spaces, which I thought was a very good opportunity for us to rethink how we perceive industrial buildings. Yeah, so a little bit about Tao Guang Pottery Jungle. It's quite an unlikely heritage component, and it has a long history because it's like the last surviving dragon kiln in Singapore that still fires up clay traditionally. So it adds value and importance because there's still this thriving community who patronize the place and keep the heritage alive. So personally, I thought that even though it's not part of the site, there was this need for an architectural response, especially when we're building such a large and massive architecture in such close proximity. So in a way, establishing this continuity with this heritage element, the new build also can generate meaningful narratives to ground the architecture in this otherwise greenfield site. Yeah, so here are just some early concept diagrams. If you look at the map of Tao Guang, actually the route to Tao Guang is this big loop around the site. And to me, it felt intuitive to create like a thoroughfare through the site itself for a direct link to Tao Guang. So you bring the people through the site itself to link them up to Tao Guang. And there's also a F&B and retail component of the program, which allows some kind of ground level porosity, which brings people up close to the wildlife corridor. And above like all these complex site interactions are the labs, which are elevated above this communal plane. And this in a way like culminates in the center, the creation of a hut, which is the intersection of public, users, and context. So as a result, the public and users and context are stitched together in a way that moves beyond the insular nature of a typical lab building. Yeah, so this is a view of the actual build of the hut. You can see the ground plane below. It's actually the public realm that is part of the thoroughfare, linking the people all the way to the other side, which is where the pottery place is. And then at the ground floor, there's like a lot of F&Bs and retail shop fronts for the public that will actually overlook the wildlife corridor on the other side. And above that are all the main corridors of the labs. So it circulates around the hut, and you have like all these lab spaces overlooking the communal ground. So as you can see, the design also takes cues from Tao Guang in many different ways. The terracotta palette, the textures from the pottery, all forms like some kind of inspiration for the whole project as well. And then the messing of it also is taking some cues from pottery, where it's broken down into like smaller clay volumes to be more porous and humane in scale. But I think importantly here is I wanted to create total visual porosity, because where not only the lab users overlook the vibrant communal ground, it also allows the public to have a glimpse of the workings of the labs, like the users working along the corridors, the bustle of the people working above. It's a bit of like demystifying all these stereotypically close-up lab environments. So it's almost like exposing the workings of the lab community above, creating this unlikely intersection of lab users and the public realm. Okay, so this is the next project I'm sharing. It's St. James Power Station. It's a project that I work on in W Architects. So it's a historic power station that was supposed to be repurposed into an office space, which is currently now the headquarters of Dyson in Singapore. Yeah, so it was gazetted as a national monument in 2009. It was built in 1924 and was envisioned as a major landmark to supply power to Singapore, and was fitted out with the most advanced machineries of its time. So if you see the section, it has like this boiler room, engine rooms to house like extensive machineries that were considered very advanced of its time. Yeah, okay. So as a conservation project, we are fundamentally designing within the existing fabric. And this is like an early concept stage of one of the blocks, which is actually the boiler room. And to meet contemporary needs of the office, floor slabs have to be added into these lofty volumes. So at the start, there was a very conscious effort to differentiate the old and new to material and color palette, because we always wanted to create this very clear reading of the different layers of time that is being manifested in the building. Yeah, so the new office spaces was envisioned actually like this wooden object that is surgically inserted into the historic buildings, and you can see like it's being pulled back from the historic facade. So in a way, we are like exposing the full historic facade on the inside to allow a full appreciation of the facade. Yeah, and then it's also like preserving the spatial memory of the boiler and the turbine room as lofty volumes. Yeah, okay. Yep, so this is the second and third story plan, which shows the extent of the new floor plate pulled back from the facade. You can see all around that they actually create this series of atriums around. And in a way, this series of atriums not only express the historical spatial memory of the place, but it's also creating like new spatial overlaps and visual porosity of the programs. Yeah, so this is a shot of the actual build without the ID fit out, courtesy of W Architects. And it shows the office volume being pulled back and revealing the historic carcass. Yeah, and there's another view, which creates these interesting interstitial spaces, where the work areas actually overlook the volumes below, which is actually breakout spaces or like retail spaces for the new firm. So in a way, while preserving the historic spatial memories of the building, it allows like continuity in the dialogue between old and new. And in the contemporary usage, there is also an interesting overlap of office space and breakout spaces. So it creates this kind of porosity that allows different forms of engagement between the space and the people. Okay, so this is an office building that I did in RSP now. Is exploring the redefinition of workplace typology through a close reading of the surrounding social ecosystem. And this project also involves readaptation of an existing coach stand, intensifying it into like a new office development. So it started off with like exploring the problematics of a typical office. Traditional office design prioritizes efficiency, density, and often at the expense of well-being, collaboration, and human interaction. So as a single-use space also, it becomes inactive after hours, and they become increasingly obsolete in the face of flexible and remote work trends. So in response to all those problematics that we identified, I sort of like came out with this conceptual collage, which is basically reimagining how a traditional office typology through the introduction of a vertical wellness deck that actually carves like this fissure through the tower. And within this void, there will be a series of sculptural staircases, landscape terraces that are interwoven with curated amenities to form a continuous ribbon of like active lifestyle spaces. So it's kind of like trying to promote physical and mental well-being. And at its core, the project actually proposes like a human-centric workplace that prioritizes wellness, collaboration, and lifestyle. And is supported by this mixed-use ecosystem that extends beyond conventional office functions. Yeah, okay. So translating from the conceptual collage, we look at the development of the plan. This shows the ground floor, the top one shows the ground floor plans. So it's retaining its function as a coach stand, coach waiting area, but it introduced a new office lobby. And level 2 plan, you can see, is now being transformed into like a wellness deck. So it's like this large garden with jogging trail and fitness corners amidst the gardens, and the office block is lifted above it. Yeah, so this is a perspective of it from the ground. It shows like the wellness deck on top and the office tower being set back, and also the coach stand at the bottom. Yeah, this is a view of the interior of the coach stand. It has this series of skylights above to create this interesting play of shadows and light. Another aerial view. So you can see on L2 all the little yellow cones. Those are like the playful sculptures of the skylight that brings light down into the coach stand below. And this wellness trail is signed by this bright yellow that continues as a ribbon of activities all the way to the building. Then it starts to climb up through the middle. You can see the little slot. So on plan, typical plan, you can see like the central yellow portion. That's where the wellness deck continues up the typical office plans, like a central feature of sculptural staircase and flanked by curated amenities that will support this active lifestyle. So it will just continue all the way to the rooftop, and then it concludes as a rewarding view of the surroundings. Okay, so this is the close-up of the wellness deck, transitioning into a series of sculptural staircase that climbs up the facade. So in a way, we tried to break out of a typical office bowl by creating like this integrated office typology that merges workplace and fitness culture, kind of like trying to transform sedentary environments into an active, wellness-driven ecosystem. So like it was a design competition. We didn't get a job in the end, but it generated a lot of interest amongst the client actually, because in the end they told us actually they are just looking for a very simple glass block building. But the conceptually they were actually very intrigued, like what we can do for office typologies as well. Yeah. So we need braver clients to get to test concepts. Okay, so this is the last project that I will share. It's actually reframing an aging campus. It's also another project that I'm doing in RSP. It's an educational institution that is about 30 hectares and it's an ongoing project. So due to time and cost constraints, the project is to be an A&A. It starts with a master plan for the next 25 years, and then it will be followed by like a series of construction phases to be a pilot test of the master plan design. Okay, so this aging campus in Singapore is looking towards a master plan to rejuvenate without a tabula rasa situation. It is important to look at the original design, which is about 30 years ago. So the original design actually has this very significant footprint of external spaces between like the individual school blocks, and then however they are like largely underutilized because it's predominantly hardscape and it's thermally very uncomfortable. So as such, it becomes mostly a dead space, like leftover, and nobody really uses it, but it really takes up a significant portion of the land area. So the master plan seeks to reactivate all these in-between spaces of the school, reimagine them as new activated social spaces that will stitch the whole campus together. Yeah, okay. So if you recall the earlier image, most of these in-between spaces are external areas which are currently very uncomfortable because it's just too hot. And so we thought that a shade master plan becomes important in order to be successfully reactivating these extensive dead areas. And our initial strategy is to reverse this paradigm of building and landscape relationship. So the existing situation is that the environment is very built up, and the landscape was just inserted as a visual thing. So it does nothing to mitigate the urban heat island. And so we propose to reimagine landscape as an equally important part of the master plan. And we see it like this whole ecosystem, like a multi-layered forest that provides shade, and it becomes like a primary design driver. So when thermal and sensory comfort is achieved, right, we believe the social zones will be naturally activated. Yeah, so just some quick diagram analysis. We did shade analysis, and then as you can see, it's predictably like all red, and it shows that it's very exposed. And we directly translate that into like a largeness plan. So the diagram below, you can see like varying degrees of largeness that corresponds to the shade needs. So like for example, the most exposed will have like more landscape layering, while the shaded one would probably be like shrubs or lawn. Yes. And so within this forest infrastructure of shade, we insert like urban intervention to support new social spaces. And we envision to rejuvenate this extensive urban space like as a green spine. We have 4 like key zones, as you can see the 4 colors there. These are actually established through like very intensive user engagement insights. So it really came from the people after a series of workshops. And urban interventions and supporting infrastructures are then woven into this landscape in response to this zone. So it creates this layered and actively programmed environment. Okay. So another key strategy in activating the campus was also to revitalize like major landmarks along the major user journeys. The campus hut is an existing building that's located in the middle of the green spy. So this is what I can share for now. So yeah, gotta imagine, sorry about that. So the campus height is like in the middle of the green spy, and despite its strategic position, right, it's actually very fragmented by dead ends and then a lot of solid walls. There's no visibility and connectivity. So it's like largely dead. There's a lot of leftover interior spaces as well. So part of the master plan was, of course, to reimagine this building as a central nucleus, generating energy that flows throughout the whole campus in the end. Yeah, so we proposed to open up view corridors and increase the porosity and blur the boundaries between the programs so that there's more spillover. So I'll just show some quick examples. This is the ground floor of the campus hut, which was envisioned as an internal street. So currently, if you look at the top diagram, there's no connectivity between the levels, and then it's largely dead and oversized. And so we imagine like carving out this double volume space while keeping the structural frame intact. So we sort of like proposed to demolish the floor slabs and then all the internal partitions, and then we just keep the structural framing and start to insert like smaller volumes to create this internal street setting, and also add additional skylight to bring lighting and porosity into the internal street. So it's reimagining the whole student services like a personalized town setting. Yeah, the same concept for the canteen. So currently it was like very compartmentalized, interiorized individual spots. So we are proposing to like sort of like breaking through the whole slab and then like having more spillovers into the internal street and out into the green spine also. Yeah. And lastly, there's a lot of like underutilized theatres. So as part of like thinking about future proofing, is also how these spaces can be adaptable and work beyond just like a traditional lecture theatres, especially when how the pedagogies are shifting and evolving. So part of the master plan also look into how this can be revitalized into like new activity centres. The current lecture halls are actually extremely dead. So I can see this word keep repeating throughout the presentation because like the whole campus has a lot of space, but then there are just a lot of leftover corners and there's just no vibrance. So we try to introduce like more transparency in the facade where people can engage with activities from the external as well. So in a way, the LTs can extend beyond the confines of like just the lecture theatre, but it involves like the external as well, which the second diagram is showing, trying to show like how people could be sitting along the lawn spaces, the external areas, and then watching like maybe recitals that are happening inside the lecture theatres. Yeah, so to sum that up, is like these are like brief snapshots of the larger keynote parts that was developed for the master plan. But at its core, it's really focusing on the underutilized in-between spaces and residual interiors, and how to reframe that as activity nodes and activate the social commons. So rather than taking like a tabula rasa approach, the proposal reinterprets the existing campus through moments of constructive construct and through collisions that will re-energize and reconnect the campus life. Okay, so that's more of like a personal journey for me of the projects that I work on. And I would like to conclude by sharing the broader direction that RSP is pursuing in Singapore. So namely, the design approaches are grounded in greening and sustainability alongside new perspectives on buildability. So for me, it's particularly interesting how like the poetics of design and cultural narratives in architecture can be integrated with larger and more urgent goals such as sustainability, constructability, and leading ultimately to more holistic and well-rounded solutions. Yeah, so I'm just quickly sharing this project here. It's a quick elaboration on two key strategies. So in line with our nation goal of achieving carbon neutrality by 2050, RSP is actively exploring like building designs that are sustainable and environmentally friendly, alongside more resource-efficient, greener approaches to buildability. So this is actually the area at Nanyang Technological University in Singapore. is developed in collaboration with Toyo Ito. It officially opened in 2023 and is actually the largest mass-engineered timber building in Asia. So approximately like 78% of the floor is built using MET, and it's a renewable carbon storing material that acts as an effective carbon sink. So it's kind of demonstrating this shift towards like more sustainable construction practices as well. But of course with that, there's a lot of challenges. So there's a lot of lessons learned from this building and the construction methods of using this wood extensively in a tropical climate. Yeah, so this is the other project that is a good example to exemplify like our greening strategies, which is very in line with Singapore's vision of like city in nature. Because we don't have a lot of nature, we have to create it. So in RSP, we prioritize design that enables like seamless transition between like the garden and the city, and like the metropolis and green oases can coexist together. So this is Capital Spring. It's developed in collaboration with big architects, and it's a strong reference point that shows how it seamlessly weaves landscape into like a very predominantly hard architectural framework, like a skyscraper. So we managed to like weave in all these little gardens from the groundscape all the way through the tower up to the roof as well. Yeah. Okay, so I think that's about it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Architect Cheryl Lim, for highlighting the movement of architecture through richer contexts, and may we create deeper connections and engaging experiences. Next, for our final speaker, joining us today, interior designer Jo Chan Wan Ho, whom an adjunct professor, is a Malaysian interior designer, academic contributor, and professional advocate with over 2 decades of influence across practice, education, and institutional leadership. As principal of Design Tone and award-winning interior design practice, he has shaped contemporary Malaysian interiors through a context-driven, culturally responsive, and pragmatically innovative approach. Rather than pursuing a fixed style, his work is guided by sensitivity to people, place, and purpose, allowing each project to evolve with clarity and relevance. Beyond practice, Jo has made significant contributions to academic. He has lectured extensively at universities and colleges. At national and international levels, Jo actively advocates for the profession. He is Deputy President of both the Malaysian Institute of Interior Designers and the Asia Pacific Space Designers Association, and serves on the executive board of the International Federation of Interior Architects Designers, representing Malaysia in global discourse. I welcome interior designer Jo Chan Wan Ho with his sharing entitled Reframing Interior Design Trends. Please welcome.
A very good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I feel a little bit being a misfit here. First, I'm not that young, right? So this is a young conference, and I'm also very honored to be. I heard that I'm probably the first interior designer to be invited for this PAM talk. I'm very intimidated actually in the presence of such great architects, and probably I'm also an architect wannabe. I graduated in architecture 27 years ago. Never practiced a single day of architecture. 27 years of interior design. 6 months of internship in architecture, that's all. So thank you for having an interior designer today. Before I go on with my 6 hours lecture here, a lot of people. I want to acknowledge the presence of my dear team coming on a Saturday morning, and also acknowledge some of the work that I shared, some great people I worked along over the past 27 years. We do interior designer. We are a multidisciplinary interior practice. We do anything that gives bread and butter to our plate, and sometimes crumbs as well. So you can see our works are quite diverse from residential, not really residential, I would say that commercial spaces, development projects, malls, and show units, etc. So these are some of the works that we've done, and still doing galleries, show units, etc., etc. So my practice is called design tone. The tone is basically a reflection of music, whereby design is always universal, regardless of language, people, or creed, or religion. It's always universal. So these are some of the works that we've been doing. This is our current projects. We're doing a couple of malls, couple of developments, and etc. So like what I said, anything that put bread and butter, we are not choosy. Beggars are not choosers. So yeah, malls and galleries. Yeah. So interestingly, I was invited to talk about trends. For interior, basically, a lot of people associate interior, kind of differentiate the interior designs and trends. So in reality, for me, when we talk about trends, we often think, especially interior, is always about aesthetic, it's about material, it's about colors, etc. So in reality today, what interiors is actually driven by a system. That's what I would like to share. At the same time, interior design is very much influenced by architecture movement. It's correlated, biophilic, adaptive reuse, sustainability. There's a core. Of course, now I think in interior design, especially now, we try to advocate a lot of cultural identity as well into our works. That's what I try to share some of the relevant projects into these talks about the emerging trends of interior designs. One of the projects that we have done last year is an adaptive reuse. It's a shopping mall where, of course, whenever you do a design adaptive reuse, it's always designing possibility with constraint. What happens if a project fails, right? So let me begin with this project. It's an adaptive reuse project. A transform project is called 168 Park Selayang. The project is not driven by an ambition, but it's more of driven by a constraint. So those of you just now, Kawa mentioned about Selayang, right? So probably some of you passed by this Star City. It's been abandoned for a couple of years. So we got the opportunity to revive this project. Now it's 168 Park Selayang. This is basically the left, right, was the original layout that we given, and then the right is where the transformation happens, right? When we did this more, in our knowledge, we're still learning. We realized that in a mall, movement is very important. A mall can only operate well if you create a lot of visual connectivity, a lot of pause when you move. Movement is where it's very important for a mall. So you could see that the original mall, there's no spaces that you can actually pause, or there's no central spine and things like that. So we found a lot of challenges to reconfigure the whole mall. And we created a lot of loopings and pause and also central spaces. And this is another floor. And while we're doing so, we realized that we actually create a lot of visibility, and we also created a lot of connectivity in the space itself. So while reconfiguring the space, we realized that we start to have a big problem, whereby the existing structure we cannot relocate, right? There's a huge ramp going from the certain floors to the car park itself. So now we are encountered after, so cleverly reconfiguring the whole space, we realized that we have a saw thumb in the middle of the space, right? And that's how the challenge, we always like a challenge, how do we tackle this? And realize actually this challenge is actually a potential whereby we can create a central core area for the kids play area or the family area. And this is how we transform the whole space. So this is a section of the space itself. So you see the whole ramp. And we decided to actually create this existing structure, a ramp, to connect it from the lower ground to the first floor. And it becomes a connectivity. And it's also become a space whereby you can add on to the net sellable area for the owner of the mall. So it becomes a children play area, and it's also a potential place for you to do a cafe. And this is how it transformed. So what we did was, instead of having a saw thumb sticking in the middle of the mall, and they were trying to, the client is trying to figure out what could you do with it, build a wall around it, do a digital wall and things like that. So that doesn't add value to the space. So we realized that when you transform this as a family play area, where a mall is very important, and you can actually make it more interesting, and also become a feature. And when you look at it, you don't even know that it was a ramp. So it's like an added value, added feature. And at the same time, at a certain part of the mall, we already run all the MEPs. So you can actually do a cafe there, and you utilize the steps to put your cafe sitting. So what we are trying to show here is basically the very basic material that we use for the whole mall. I think most interior design or most architecture conference, they don't really, architects or interior design in most conferences don't really want to talk about this trend, right? They always try to stay away from this trend. The trend is basically, the client's favorite trend actually now. I don't know whether you all resonate with it. Client's favorite trend is actually the cut budget trend, right? All professionally is called value engineering, right? So then I'm sure I'm telling everyone who resonate with this. So most of the time, 90% of the time that we encounter the client, they always give you a very high wish list, right? When you actually do it, and then at the end they come, okay, cut budget, this is always a trend. So in this project, these are the key materials that we use for the mall itself. A lot of expanded matter colors, and of course, later on I will explain the psychedelic films, how it comes to play. So we transformed the mall into, this is basically the atrium, whereby, that's why I say the additive reuse, it doesn't really have a central atrium. So we actually open up the central atrium to be a communal space, to be a celebrity space. And what you see above the ceiling is basically all the expanded metal. It's all very cheap material. Of course, this is not I'm not really talking about the concept itself, but of course the concept was, because it's the location of the mall is, behind it is a river, and there's a park, that's why it's called 168 Park Sulaiman. So it's always about nature. So initially our design was talking about the water ripples, and then the reflective points and things like that. So it reflects back to the ceiling. So this is a very common ideas that we have. So like most of the project, we don't really have a big budget. So we play a lot with geometrical shapes and patterns on the floors. And of course, a little bit of interjection of the biophilic into the interior spaces. And when we did this project, we realized that because it's already done most of the superstructure, so the columns are amazingly huge. So what we did was actually, when we start wrapping it up, it becomes larger. So what you see, some of my teammates are, they cleverly create lines with lights. So it's sort of break that mess of the columns itself. So this is where we started hacking the atrium area, remove some of the structure to do the giant, sittings, whereby you can oversee the whole atrium itself. So this is basically the construction, and it becomes a celebrity space. It becomes a an event space, and now apparently I was told that this is the most used space in the mall. And this is how we played with a floor pattern, simple design, but give an impact to the space. These are the walls. For the ceiling itself, we were talking about water, we are talking about ponds, we are talking about the lily petals. So this is a very economical solution. It's just a cutout metal, and we stick with 3M cyclitic film, the rainbow film, so to give that reflection to the escalator area. Again, we always don't have much budget, so we do very little plaster ceiling, where it's important. And of course, we do a lot of strips, so that sort of break that rigidity of ceiling, so it kind of like, diffuse you from looking into the MEP itself and spray paint it with black, yeah. And of course, floor patterns and all these aluminum fins. So very simple idea. The client is very happy. They probably spent about 4 million for the ID for 200,000 square feet of area. So next, I would like to talk about another trend. Trend is not universal. For interior design, it varies depending on the typology of design or category of design that you do. So workspace, it's very interesting. In design tone, like what I said, we do every single type of project. I think we have completed probably 1 million square feet of offices, multinational office or local office. So to us, office is not about aesthetic only. It's not about visual. It's always about this system. So the evolution of office, I'm sure some of you have done office. They have evolved throughout the 100 years, and some of this office, when you look at the 80s, it's very cubicle. It's really depressing. Of course, office have shifted quite a bit from the 2010s. And of course, moving on after the pandemic, it also shift the way we work. But of course, what I'm trying to relay here is not so much of what the textbook writes, but instead of what the client that we meet and the system the client actually wants. So basically for us so far, although they are talking about Office 3.0, about post-pandemic, hybrid, well-being, activity-based workspace strategy is still very much in request at the moment. So this is the office that we have done for AIA Digital. So it's very much based on activity-based workspace strategy, right? So why is activity-based? Is because it's just that it looks into how people work, whereby you have certain spaces for certain activities. It's very simple, right? It's just like it's actually nothing new. It's just how you compartment certain people depending on the task that they do, right? So you have focus area, you have a public area, you have quiet rooms, etc., etc. So I'm sure all this information you can actually get from the internet. It's just that how you, execute it. So next is basically just a sample of the space that we've done. As you can see from the screen. You have social community area, collaboration and focus work, retreat, arrival, transition, client interface support, and things like that. So putting them into a very logical sense. For me, designing for offices is not too difficult. It's always about common senses. It's a lot of common senses. Where you want your guests to come in, where you want your private zone to put place in, where you want a noisy zone to be in, where's your privacy space, and etc., etc. The rest is more of cosmetic. So office is always about system. It's always about pragmatic. So of course, again, we have arrival, transition zone, as very much based on the activity-based office. Then we have the client interface area, interaction. Then we have the focus work zone, collaborative zone, social community zone. I wouldn't want to talk about colors, materials, and whatnot. All right, so it's more on trends in workspace and things like that. So then you have a private retreat zone, the phone rooms, whereby you have a very retreat zone, whereby you can do a lot of email, quiet spaces and things like that, private calls and etc. And of course the back office and the utility area. But one thing is very important now. We realize that in most workspaces there's this very inclusive spaces that now is introduced. It's very valid for people with neurodivergence. I think it's very important. And there's a lot of awareness that we can actually create this zone whereby they can actually have their private zone, or they have a bit more quieter, calmer spaces to cater for more people with that neurodivergence, more of well-being for their staff itself. Next, I would like to move on to residential trend. Right. Like what I mentioned, that design tone, we really don't like to do residential because we already think that it's really, when we do residential, it's always a pain in the butt, right? You have to, the mother-in-law will say something, the husband will say something, the sister-in-law will say something, so it's never ending. But ironically, we have done probably 30 or 40 show units and galleries. We work with a lot of development projects. We work with 12 to 13 developers as I'm speaking. Then we kind of formulate why, what is the trend, especially the contemporary trend for the younger generation. Of course, residential is always very personal. So these are just reference images. I think some years ago when we were asked to do show units, it's always, I think 10 years ago, it's always industrial, very industrial looking, I'm still, like what I said, residential is always a trend. It's always a personal thing, right? So, until today, people would still prefer industrial design. Then, of course, at one time, everyone was talking about minimalism, a lot of whites and things like that. And of course, the easiest is still the trend in a way. It's always a Japandi or Muji or Scandinavian, But interestingly enough, what I want to present here is something that I sum up working with a lot of property launchers, that the brief given by the developers, especially they're studying the demographics and the people of 30, 40, where the target market is, or young professionals and things like that, the second generations or things like that. It's a little bit shift from here. If I talk about trend, about residential trends, there's a lot of to talk about. You talk about colors, you talk about furniture and whatnot. So I'm just summing up. I'm not an expert. I'm just summing up what we have, what the brief been given for so many times, and you realize that now it's always the oversized, fat couch furniture. A lot of materiality, a lot of texture. In the brief that we're given. So it becomes very ornate in a way, sometimes very maximalism, sometimes it's very eccentric, So I think the generation has shifted. Of course, sometimes we also get, property developers whereby they want to target different demographics, 60s, 70s. Then we always go back to the very modern, contemporary overuse sort of word, right? So these are some of the examples that we are working on. And, very personalized, very loud, I think people are not afraid to show their personality, Samples are this. So sometimes it's a lot of mismatch. So we are always, in architecture school and design school, we always talk about harmony, right? Always form, follow, orders, etc., etc. I think it doesn't really apply nowadays in this generation. It's no longer about harmony. Harmony is a different, I would say it applies to different generations or different mindset really. So sometimes the harmony doesn't even come to play. It's just loud and whatever you like, you just place it there. So things like this. Of course, we also realized that recently, the color, especially this year itself, is always a lot of terracotta, a lot of olive green, a lot of pastel, and of course, a lot of sandy colors, the trend. So very loud big head, rattan is still a play. So these are some of the trends that we are looking at. So things like this. This is another project that we're working on. Audrey is working on this project with a not so young client, but probably thinks he's very young. Yeah, so nothing is practical. Practical is not important to him. So we really customize the, I hope this really works actually, because we've never done a wooden bathtub. We are customizing this wooden bathtub. Yeah, hope it doesn't leak or it doesn't break, right? Of course, it's gym itself, very personalized space. This is in Pavilion. golf simulation room, his favorite guitar, the acoustics that we're working on. These are some of the show units that we work on now, for youngsters, very vibrant space, neon lights, etc. This is what we just completed, I think, before Chinese New Year. It's for Siam Dhabi in Ara Block. It's for their new development. So you will see that the shift, it used to be very Scandinavian style, very safe style. Now they probably have a little characteristic in the space. And yeah, I think the response was quite good over the past 2 months. Start like this, we're obviously working on some of the show units we are working on. As we are speaking, we are probably doing about 8 show units at the moment. A lot of big bold colors, gold bold veneers. When you talk about interior design, obviously materiality is always the key thing. So we also realize that there's always this big shift between material, right? Fox material, artificial material, right? So I'm sure you've seen a lot of these fluted panels. What I'm trying to show is this is conventionally. The left side is basically my bedroom, which is real timber. And the right side is basically plastic, the fluted panel. So these are very common that you see. And then on the left side is actually a real marble. The right side is a project that we're doing. It's a sintered stone, right? So of course the left side was 19 mm, the left side was 8 mm, right? The left side was 10 times the price. The right side is 10 times lesser, right? I think what I'm trying to highlight is basically, of course, now there's obviously 2 arguments, the purist and again the Fox material. So let's not have that debate because until the cows come home. But in the interior design context is when we use Fox material, it allows us to create more bolder design, right? Besides just economic aspect of it, I think Fox material allows imagination to go wilder because there's maintenance basically for Fox material is lesser, the durability and things like that, right? Of course, when you talk about sintered stone and marble, I'm sure architects will understand the staining, etc., etc., etc. And of course, again, on economic point of view, instead of doing one wall that costs you 50,000, you can multiply another 10 walls with the same amount of money. So it allows us to really push our boundaries in many manners. These are some of the projects that we're working on. And right-hand side is basically this clay, compressed clay material, which is only about 9 mm or 8 mm. So similarly, all this PVCs, crystals, and things like that. So you see the mirror being bent, because actual mirror you can't. So this is a bamboo-based material that you can actually get it from China quite a lot. So example, all this texturized paint, the ceiling itself, and these are actual projects that we're working, right? So what I'm trying to show you is basically this is the material that we have been able to use with the Fox material. And of course, these are the trend that is happening, right? So yeah, there's a little of a humble presentation, right? So interior design is no longer about style. It's a lot of context, a lot of system. I think it's very important to me to deliver this message as a Deputy President of Malaysian Institute of Interior. Interior designer is not just lame aesthetic, there's a lot of context in what we do, very similar to architects. Yeah, so thank you very much.
Thank you, interior designer Jo Chan Wan Ho, for the inspiring presentation. And thank you to all speakers. And everyone give a round of applause. Ladies and gentlemen, we move on to our Q&A and panel discussion, where all speakers will come together for a deeper conversation on the future of architecture in our region. I welcome our moderator for this session, Architect Esmonde, our President of EAC, to come up to the stage, as well as all the other speakers. So, hello. For this session, if you have any questions, please scan the QR code and put in your questions. Or if you have any questions as well, you can raise up your hand and we will assist you.
Okay, thank you, MC. Thank you to all speakers. I think today we have seen a wide range of works presented, whether it's conceptual / smaller scale, all the way to cultural, commercial, or even slightly smaller space adaptive reuse. Maybe the first question we can start off is, of course, with the first speaker. I think, how do you even convince the client? Because I think your Surau Selayang is very conceptual and theoretical in a way. So how do you manage to convince the client, the layman, that you try to make this conceptual framework idea, make it into a reality?
So there's a bit of a groundwork. First, the YDP are newly installed. So he's been there for, I don't know, maybe 2 weeks when we presented the scheme, the first round. So the idea was really to leverage on the fact that he has a fresh eye on the project, unlike the others. They have been working on it for years. So obviously you need to be, you need to play a bit of politics lah, knowing that the guy that's going to make a decision is the YDP, right? So the Timbalan YDP was there all along, so he's the one that needs to be a bit more convincing, because actually they have hired a different architects previously, and we are coming in off a bidding of 5 architects. So we bid to get the project, even though the fee is there has a ceiling for the fee, 10% for all consultants. So the idea was really to leverage on the fact that we're able to convince them one step at a time. Do you agree that this symbol is coming out of moon and the sun? Okay, yes. Do you agree that the Islamic practices revolve around the phenomenon of this cosmology? Okay, yes. So it's a small battle that we try to win every time, and things start to revolve. It's sort of like a, in between of stubbornness and also being clever about it. So throughout the presentation, even though we present the same thing throughout the 6 months, we managed to convince them. And I told them, there's an auditing, there's a national audit, right? So we have signed the SST, Surat Setuju Terima. If you do a government job, you know this. So I said to them, it's okay lah, if you don't want this concept, just terminate lah. Later you jawab lah in the audit. Why you terminate the consultant? No, at the end of the day, what we're trying to do is to leverage on the resources that they have. The original proposal that they have is 4.6 million. We are constructing with 3.7. So, there's a lot of savings there as well. So what they want is actually something for a staff, for 80 people. We managed to get 150. So we are keep on shifting their goals. They have this goal, they have these two posts. And we said that you can do so much more with so much less if you choose our option. So that's how we convince them lah, finally. And I think the benefit of some people within the room that actually believe it. So I think the Pengarah Jabatan Bangunan was on board, the planning Pengarah was on board as well. So it's just a matter of the management, the rest of management body will just listen to these 2 architecturally trained people. Yeah.
Such a good answer. This one is more technical. Brief question for the interior designer, Joe. How much price difference using batons for mall ceiling as compared to a full plaster? I thought batons being nicer means it costs more. Make sense?
Yeah, I think well, again, baton, right, it also depends on how dense you put the baton, right? Right? So yeah, I think the first and foremost, I think when we talk about plaster ceiling, it's always the cheapest material, so without any design and whatnot. So of course, baton probably adds on probably 20-30% of the cost itself, right? Of course, then it depends on whether you're using timber, real timber pattern, or you're using aluminum. Now, the best thing is now aluminum pattern can be done in in wood finish and multiple wood finish and things like that, in the color finish and things like that. So, and the trick is basically quite simple, because we do so much VE in almost our project, right? When you place it probably in the same height, like 4 meters, right, you can't really tell whether this is real timber or fake timber. I'm not really sure I'm supposed to advocate this or not either. So it's amazing now that you even see them using printed film, timber printed film with textures exactly like timber, right? So there's many tricks to it, yeah.
Okay, thank you. I think the next question is for Architect Desta. What keeps you passionate? Sorry, the mic can't hear. What keeps you passionate about making sure your design gets built right with all the rapid changes in construction?
Sorry, can you repeat?
Yeah. What keeps you passionate about making sure your design gets built correctly in construction, because it's changing so fast in the Indonesian scene and stuff like this?
Okay. Okay. I don't know. I had some conversations also before with Qhawarizmi. I think it's a bit different between Indonesia and Malaysia in terms of the architecture practice. But in Indonesia, our mindset is when you already design something, first you need to make sure that it is built. Second is, of course, we don't want to be changed, the design. So that's why every time we do design, we need to make sure everything is under our control. I could say that. Of course, it's difficult because when we design, we cannot just think about the visual itself. That's why as an architect, actually, personally, I'm struggling of understanding the detail of the engineering itself, the technical, etc. Even starting from the structure, when I want something like this, oh, amazing. In Yogyakarta, one of the most challenging things is also earthquake. See, so when I want something like in Singapore, very big canopy without anything, we can't. Even a lot of people are also afraid to put the glass fence like this. Yeah, it's dangerous because we don't know. The earthquake was serious. 2010, 26. Okay, earthquake is not only from the volcano, but we also have the unstable land. So this is another challenge. So that's why we need to understand from the very start in the structure. Otherwise, we already designed something, we already convinced the clients, but suddenly the structure person coming, he said like, oh no, cannot, I can't sign your this drawing, this structure. Then we need to redo everything. And then the next, like I mentioned before, is the MEP lah. So plumbing, everything. I don't know, because maybe MEP people, MEP company in Indonesia, they got so many projects. Means they are so busy. So whenever we give them any drawings, they were just like, oh, it's easy, just put this one. And they only see it on 2D drawings. Okay, maybe some of them are starting to use PIM, but it's for a very big project only. We always have the budget issue. So to pay people who are expert in the PIM, not only in architecture, okay, so PIM means it must connect with everyone, or every system, it's a system, So it's not only one person who need to be expert in the PIM, everybody. Means that this is, okay lah, maybe several years later we can do that, but now we need to make sure that we also already prepare for everything. Oh, maybe the MEP will put something like this in the corner, in here and here, so that we prepare everything. So, yeah. Okay. Is it answering your question?
I think so. Building in such different conditions and contexts really sets a different mind frame and framework.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, I think the next question is for Architect Cheryl. Referring to Architect Primavera Desta's words about Singapore being sustainable, or a sustainable city, because of land scarcity. How rigorous is your practice adopting this sustainable approach? Because every land is considered more expensive, 3 times the price, or, you know?
Yeah, okay. So regarding that question, right, it's also linked to how the whole government and the authorities work. So a lot of this is mandated. So it's like if you're beyond a certain GFA, then you will have to achieve certain sustainability goals. It's a way to control as a whole nation to reach as a nationwide kind of sustainability goals. But having said that, right, we start to see increasingly, because what Desta mentioned before is previously it was checklist. Okay, I need to achieve this, then I just tick off the list. So it's not inherent in the design. People don't have that sensibility or that awareness of sustainability following through the whole design itself. So increasingly there's a trend that is becoming more authentic. People start to think about it, about spaces, passive design wise, what we can do to contribute back and all. So for example, like some of the projects that I show is actually triggered from initial thinkings about sustainability, about greening and all, rather than just government say I need to meet all these requirements and then I just fulfill passive cooling or whatever. Yeah.
So it's a national policy downwards.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. This is for interior designer Joe. I don't know, you're quite popular here. You are trained as an architect in school. Would an interior designer trained in architecture background practice ID different compared to those who studied ID and practice ID?
Oh, this is a trick question, right?
Because in 26 years didn't practice architecture.
Okay, I think my architecture background helps me see spaces a little bit different. I mean, with due respect to interior designers who are, they study interior design. The fundamental of how I look at space is a bit different compared to the interior design, especially the context of space, because when we were in school, we always talk about the hierarchy of space. We really feel the space, the spatial quality. Because I'm also academic, so what I'm going to say is going to be quite unpopular. I realized that in interior design schools, there's too much emphasis on visual. It becomes very superficial, right? With due respect, everything aesthetic is part of interior design. I mean, it's part of architecture, but the context of aesthetic sometimes is also the simplicity of space that interior designers still, not all, some are still lacking the appreciation of space, especially white space, white spaces. So they are taught that every white spaces should have an element, henceforth, you see, even when you go to, I'm sure a lot of you go to schools to create, especially interior design schools, sometimes the presentation board really lost me because there's too many things, So yeah, I think my architecture background helps me, which is an advantage because the context of architecture, and I'm still very close with the architecture community. It allows me to appreciate both, and most of the time I do look at space, the context of space first before I even design. So I appreciate the narratives, the spatial narratives. I appreciate the circulation, movement, the visual, the vertical connectivity, the horizontal connectivity. Those things are very much taught, Francis D.K. Cheng, all sort of thing, movement. And so it still very much applied to what I'm doing daily. Yeah. So yeah, I hope I answered your question.
Okay, thank you. The next one is for architect, come back to Cheryl again, because I think just now you mentioned you collaborated with both BIG and Toyo Ito. So this one is more towards the Toyo Ito collaboration, whereby it's the Gaia Gaia campus in Singapore, because it's a mass timber construction. So can you share a little insights on how you collaborated with Toyo Ito and maybe the process? Because I think It's quite significant being one of the slightly medium-rise timber construction within the region.
Okay, I need to clarify a little bit on this. So, as I mentioned just now, I was actually showcasing like the more significant projects that RSP has done. Yeah, so that two projects were done before I joined RSP actually. So I wasn't the person who actually worked on them, but it's more of like linking about what RSP is moving towards, and then how does that align with my personal design approaches also lah. So, but having said that, RSP has done a lot of like collaboration with foreign collaborators. Is actually is an eye opener for the company lah. Basically, because it's like we get to learn from all these like so-called big star architects, and then learn how they think about things, and in a way is kind of developing our core design team strength as well lah. Yeah.
Okay, I think the next one is for Architect Kawa here. You are actively involved with young architects, including some of us in the room and across the region. What are the challenges for emerging architects facing today?
I think the efforts and the zeal to actually self-initiate anything is actually the biggest challenge. I mean, if you are waiting for the institute to do something, on the position of the institute, I'm used to be the council member. We don't want to choose winner or losers. So if we do an event and we start picking up like, okay, this guy exhibits something, this guy gonna talk, this and that, is gonna do exactly that. So the main point is actually to self-initiate something. That's what I learned from my experience in the region. Indonesian architect, for example, even though they're doing I just got gifted a small book. It's a small musola. It's 8 meter by 2 meter. That's all. The whole book just talking about one small project. So the culture of documentation, the culture of actually appreciating processes are a little bit more. So there's nobody telling this young architect to actually write a book. Nobody. But he's just collated all the events, all the sequence of minutes of meetings and whatnot, photograph of the site from the beginning. Because the site is on the side of a cemetery. It's a leftover parking land of a cemetery. So there's a lot of stories there as well. So he did that book, and when I go there, it's very normal to see a lot of Indonesian publication written in two languages, Indonesian and English. And I know from my recent experience, they are starting to put in, they talk in Bahasa. They already get that 200-something million population understanding their video, for example. And they put English subtitle and a Mandarin subtitle. So now they get billions. So they put up onto exclusive Chinese website like Good, G-O-O-O-D. So this website is like a Arc Daily equivalent, but for China. So they are broadening up. And I know a lot of Thai ID and Thai landscape architects are working in China as well. So these are some of the key learnings, meaning the young architect themselves have to redefine their game, the chessboard. If you're playing in the status quo, try to outbeat projects with your fellow senior practitioner. It's very difficult because they have laid down their capital years ago. So young architects need to self-initiate something, either it's publication, ways to talk about your project, and of course try to get yourself abroad if you can. Because if you look at the as I said just now to the other panelists, since 2020 we are no longer allowed to bring Indonesian laborer. We're only allowed to bring Bangladeshi laborer for construction sites. So labor shortage is real. People are fighting for labor. Even though we thought that, okay, we have this lower skill laborer, but you have to remember one thing: Bangladesh as a whole, as architectural global outlook, has the most Agahan award, which is 9. Okay, even though we might think that they are how do I say, rudimentary or raw per se. And they have been to Venice Biennale in the past 4 editions. Malaysia has been there for the past, 12 years. That's our recent showcase of Malaysian architecture in the world. As Dr. Tan has mentioned as well, when they go to the international publisher and then propose to do a Malaysian architecture book, nobody actually wants to take it up. Like, who's going to buy a Malaysian architecture book? If you talk about Sri Lanka, Indonesia, Pakistan, Thai, it's easy sell. Publisher will love that. So Malaysian architecture is in the gamut of that dilemma. We are not as developed as Singapore or Hong Kong to offer that high-end solution. We also left the train for our traditional, just like in Kraton, in Jogja, we don't have those craftsmen anymore. So we are in the state of limbo. So we need to either, double down on something, either we go forward or we go back, fell back to the craftsman era, where we can still, burn bricks and whatnot. So it's not a good position. As I said, when I go around, I see where we actually are. We are definitely in that limbo of regulated and coming into a matured market. We have a lot of, unlike, for example, in Indonesia, the drawings could be very rudimentary because the workers cannot even, the laborers cannot read the drawing. So you need to go there and visit them and instruct them what to do one by one. But with that being said, the work become hyper-personalized. It's very handmade per se. In Malaysia, it's a recipe for VO, EOT, and all those legal framework coming about. So we need to actually encourage young architects to actually do things that by themselves, and the institute can help them in endorsing the event. I think that's how it should be. So as long as it's meant for registered architect and all those are up par, okay, that's what we are doing here. So this event is supported by ACYA, and the idea is really to leverage on that institutional endorsement to allow you or to help you bring sponsors for your sort of self-initiated event. Okay, so do things like do more and get more. That's always my title, my advice, because the problem is architects are what they call entitled people. They just sit here, hey, PAM tak ada buat apa-apa pun. PAM never promote me. PAM never bring me outside. Yeah. So you need to do it yourself lah. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you a lot. I think we have 8 more minutes, so maybe each panel can take 1 or 2 minutes. Maybe we'll go from Architect Desta all the way to here. Maybe the last thing that we can ask is, if we leave the room today, do you have any good advice for the young, not so young, or seasoned practitioners here? That how do we adapt or cater or face the future of our profession, whether it's industry, etc.
For young, it's easy. Not so young, sir. No, I think, it's not about the category, okay? It's not about because we are young or not young. But of course, okay, my own experience as a young architect, I just realized that, whenever we get older, looks older, or we get more gray hair, it's easier to be accepted our whatever we suggest. So maybe this is so I think for not so young, I don't know because I'm not yet there. But for young architects especially, again that we don't be afraid of sharing your idea, convince the people, the client, everybody. But again, we need to really responsible for everything that we propose, because otherwise, maybe they were just seeing us like, oh, okay, your idea is good, but then it cannot be done or something like that. So for me, of course, it will take more our time, more our energy to learn more, to have less sleep, of course, but it's like a process. And I feel after like about almost 10 years practicing with this kind of methods, I feel that it's actually something that after we had, the process, after some times, we actually already have it in our brain, and it will be automatically. When you do any design, when you do the practicing, it's automatically there already. So do not stay in a very comfort area. Learn as much as possible, and I also agree with Kawa. You do more and get more. Thank you.
Okay, for me, right, I feel fundamentally it's interest and passion still, because there's a lot of multifaceted development in architecture. There's a lot of areas of interest, like, be it sustainability or whatever. But you need to find your niche or like your core passion in it, and then just continue developing on that. That's what I feel is important. And then also that as we practice in this, right, it's not just so much about design also. Like, in fact, I feel that nothing is non-design. Like what Desta mentioned, your plumbing system, your structure and everything, right? In order to take your vision into reality, you have to take everything as part of the design process. Like even like minutes writing, how you control the situation, how you manage the clients and all the budget and all. It's all part of the design process, and it's important. Yeah, so we shouldn't tend to draw lines so much, especially when you get bigger in companies. So to me, I feel that, yeah, these are the two takeaways for me, I guess.
For me, okay. So being the oldest here, so I think speaking on interior design aspect, I noticed that the younger ones are always working in silo, in isolation, right? Probably it's a generational thing. We have to accept the fact that it's generation. So I do hope they don't continue working in silo. Even in institution, in universities, we realized that when during my generation, I don't know about you, we learn so much from our seniors and things like that. We be following our superstar seniors and to learn as much as possible. So ironically, when I talk to my intern, right, there are so many of them don't even know they are seniors at all. They probably their classmates, they don't even know them at all. So I think that is where the opportunity to learn outside, your classroom or outside your practice, when you stay isolation, right, where we actually learn the most outside, what's happening in the industry. You'll be surprised that, coming from the institution side as well, there are a lot of young designers doesn't even know what is the market rate or market fee, the interior designer and practicing, like for example, quoting for a residential project or even a commercial project, right? So they are probably underpricing themselves. They are underpricing their creativity, and in the long term, I think it's very unhealthy in the fact that they lost they probably get very disillusioned because you spend $500,000 studying in overseas and coming back, right, and then you probably get a peanut fee, But actually it's not paying that bad. It's just that you're not aware, and then you're undercutting yourself, So I think the key word to take away is just don't work on isolation, really, guys. Yeah.
Yeah, agree. I think in the onset of this term for Arcasia Committee of Young Architects, our hallmark blueprint document at the end of this term will be our future practice blueprint that we're trying to formulate that relevant across 24 countries, which is not easy. So we're not going to talk about how to set up your ACP, stuff like that. But we're going to somehow frame it as if like, models of practices that could happen in the future. For example, a licenseless model, a licenseless practice with no software license. Maybe you can model in Blender and then render in EV cycles. That's a freeware. And then you get subscription for AI, generative AI, to get your rendering or even diagrams and writings as well. So that's very cheap. So at least you can start and build your conceptual work. So that's our goal. And then another model is, as I mentioned to UM last 3 days, a new type of job. Meaning, for example, artists have agents. Sometimes they have foreign agents to bring their music in. Sometimes they have this what we call music label and all this stuff. Now, maybe we could have that as well, meaning for architects. Definitely, there's no way we can browse through all the talent that we have across the region. But for example, I have a auditorium project, and Desta happened to have 12 prior auditorium project. So why not? Rather than starting from scratch, I have no library. I'm going to spend a lot of money working out that details, and why not? Could just bring her on board for that particular portion of work. So collaboration is another thing that we thought is important. And ultimately, this is my, macam tak kena pula cakap, tapi my wet dream lah. Macam teruk sangat kan. But if you look at other professionals, like for example, doctors, you don't have to, not everyone has to build their own hospitals. Okay, you can have everyone that do the taxing. Okay, you can convert lah the pharmacy ke apa tu become draftman, your 3D whatever, your animator or whatever. And then because you are specialized in something, like say housing or even malls or even medical building, you can open a clinic there. So I have a clinic in that firm, and in that firm. You can reach me in Indonesia through this firm, through that firm, and they can still build up their own personal branding. I mean, these doctors, this consultant, this expert, the external expert consultants are moving about their hospitals, right? They have their own following. I think architects can do more or less the same. The problem is that we thought those 5 basic services should be done by one guy, one principal. That's the problem. I don't have any, in Malay called nafsu lah. I don't have nafsu actually to do buildings. I just want to do the conceptual part. That's why I have a side A, side B. Sometimes I need to do the construction, but I really hate doing contract management and stuff like this. My focus is mainly conceptual, strategic design, the one that in front of the bulk of the work, so that I can really leverage that and focus and basically collaborate. So almost every project is a collaboration project. And we can share credits, co-credits. So I can talk about the project, I can be co-credited if we win an award. We can co-credit it if we have publishing together. So this is some of the opportunity for the young architect. I'm not so sure about the seasoned veterans architects out there. Maybe they're a bit more possessive, but the younger ones are definitely more collaborative, and the younger ones should leverage on that rather than doing the whole basic services yourself. Okay, all the best.
Okay, I think we're ahead of 2 minutes over time. Sorry, EOT a bit. I think today we have got 4 wonderful speakers here, and they have shared their knowledge and a bit of golden nuggets to the audience. So hopefully you guys enjoy, and if you have any questions, you can approach them after the talk. And I think that's the end of our session. Thank you so much for attending. See you next round. Bye-bye.